Chapter 102. Yi Huanyan fell asleep in her seat. When she woke up, most of the people who had gone to eat in the cabin had returned. Guan Nai, who was beside her, had changed into a refreshing white dress and was lying down with her eyes closed. She raised her wrist and looked at the time. There were still 4 hours before the plane landed. Thinking that there were still many things to do after the plane landed, she had to get up and go to the restaurant to find something to eat. There was no one in the restaurant, so it was quiet. The stewardess brought the food. She ate slowly alone and looked at the scenery outside the window. Above the clouds, large clouds of white cotton wool floated past, and the ground could not be seen. Secretary Yi, a sweet female voice, sounded beside her. Yi Huanyan turned around and was a little stunned. "My name is Zhao Bingqing. I'm friends with Xiao Shui. I'm sitting behind you." "Yes, I remember you." Yi Huanyan forced a smile. Zhao Bingqing's smile was very sweet, and there was a small dimple at the corner of her mouth. She looked innocent. She pushed a glass of water in front of Yi Huanyan and waved the same glass in her hand and explained. "I see that you don't look too good. Is it your period? I also got it in the past 2 days. This is the brown sugar water I just asked for from the stewardess. I also asked for a glass for you. Drink it while it's hot." Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned and Nuanyuan in her heart. "Thank you." Although she was not on her period, being cared for by a stranger always made people feel that there was a trace of warmth in the world. "Then you eat slowly. I'll go back first." Returning to her seat, Zhao Bingqing did not hide the pride in her eyes. Beside her, Rui Shui frowned and looked at her. "Did you really put that thing down? Don't worry, it's just 2 drops. It's not a big deal. At least it can ensure that during the few hours on the plane, she won't have the strength to harass President Ling in the corner." Lin Jie's eyes were a little hesitant. "Bingqing, why do you carry that medicine with you?" Zhao Bingqing's face stiffened, and she was speechless for a moment. Rui Shui tugged at Lin Jie's sleeve. "Don't ask. How many female artists didn't bring it on the plane? I dare say that even Sheng Anren has prepared one. In the company's so-called group outing event, the artists would go for the rich businessmen, and the rich businessmen would go for the beautiful women. After the event, what kind of sparks could be created would depend on each person's ability. Whether the methods used were dirty or despicable, the people in the industry never talked about it. The one who could ascend to the throne was the winner." Just as they were about to land, the plane jolted. Guan Nai woke up with a start from the jolting. When she woke up, she realized that there was no one beside her. She frowned and glanced in the direction of the dining room. Yi Huanyan had not returned yet. "Passengers, please pay attention. Our plane is about to land," the air stewardess's gentle voice sounded from the announcer. All the artists in the cabin were taking out their bags, touching up their makeup, and tidying up their clothes. Guan Nai frowned and pulled a passing flight attendant. "The lady beside me hasn't returned yet. Please go to the restaurant and see if she's still there." The flight attendant was slightly taken aback. "All right, I'll go take a look." The plane soon landed, and the artists went out one by one from the cabin door. Their faces were glowing, and the colorful dresses formed a beautiful scenery at the airport exit. Ling Han turned his head and glanced in the direction of Yi Huanyan, but he didn't see her. He frowned and turned to look at the cabin door. "Anren, have you seen Secretary Yi?" A strange look flashed across Sheng Anren's face. He smiled slightly. "No, maybe he left first. Secretary Yi should be meeting up with the other staff to handle the matter of checking in to the hotel for us." After the cabin was empty, the flight attendant checked one by one to see if the passengers had left anything behind. He saw a lady's bag in a window seat and was slightly stunned. He suddenly remembered that Guan Nai had asked him to pay attention to a person when he left. Thinking of this, he hurriedly picked up the bag and walked to the dining car. After the mealtime, the dining car was unguarded. At this time, it was empty. The flight attendant breathed a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he suddenly saw a slender arm on the carpet in the middle of the dining car. Yi Huanyan was woken up by a great pain in her philtrum. She shivered all over and opened her eyes suddenly. In front of her was the face of the flight attendant with a white face, with a panicked face. "Miss, are you all right? Where am I?" Yi Huanyan got up from the bed and looked around in surprise. The handsome flight attendant touched the sweat on his forehead and breathed a sigh of relief. "The airport infirmary. You fainted in the dining car and were unconscious. It was our work mistake. Fortunately, the people in the infirmary said that you were all right. You were just too tired. So you really woke up after pinching your philtrum." Yi Huanyan covered her philtrum, which was painful from being pinched, and her face was pale. "You mean the plane has landed?" "It landed half an hour ago." I haven't taken my luggage yet." Yi Huanyan's face stiffened. She lifted the blanket on her body and got out of bed. "My companions are all gone?" "Miss Yi, don't worry. My colleagues have just helped you get your luggage. This is our mistake. I'm off work now, so I'll send you where you want to go later." The handsome flight attendant in front of her was the head flight attendant of the flight that Yi Huanyan was on. He was wearing a white uniform, and his 185 meters tall figure was very tall and straight. Probably because he had been working indoors for a long time, his skin was very white, and his whole person was sunny and elegant. When he looked at Yi Huanyan, he was full of guilt. Yi Huanyan slowly put down the hand that had been covering her mouth and asked a little embarrassedly, "How did you know my surname is Yi?" He hurriedly explained. "It happened so suddenly. I looked up your information so that it would be convenient for you to get your luggage from the baggage carousel. By the way, let me introduce myself. I'm Ling Han, the head flight attendant of this flight. I'm very sorry about this." "Ling Han." Yi Huanyan widened her eyes and looked at him in surprise. Her reaction made Ling Han slightly stunned. "Is there a problem?" "No, nothing. I have a friend, also called Ling Han." A glimmer of light flashed in Ling Han's eyes. "Really? What a coincidence. I'm 2 o'clock, Han as in Han Fizi. So is he." Yi Huanyan smiled slightly. "You're 2 o'clock. He's left ear Ling. Han as in cold, just a little bit more. Your friend's hearing should be better than mine." Hearing this, Yi Huanyan was stunned for a few seconds, and then laughed out loud. "This joke is not funny at all. But you laughed." Ling Han's eyes showed a trace of slyness. "Let's go. My colleague should have gotten your luggage. Where are you going?" "I'll send you." Yi Huanyan pulled up the corners of her mouth and forced a smile. She was not surprised that those artists in the same flight had left her behind. After all, there were no friends of hers, and the so-called companions were just on the same flight. "Miss Yi, please wait a moment." Just as she walked out of the door, someone suddenly called her from behind. She turned around and saw two people in local police uniforms hurrying over. Their faces were serious, and they spoke in fluent English. "Miss Yi, we suspect that you are carrying illegal drugs. Please come with us." Chapter 103. At the airport's police station, a group of people turned Yi Huanyan's suitcase upside down. Even her underwear was not spared. They checked very carefully, but Yi Huanyan's poor English was completely unable to understand what they were mumbling about. "Don't worry, they didn't find anything. They just heard from our captain that you fainted in the dining car, so they're a little worried." Ling Han comforted her. From the infirmary to the security station, the air steward had been with her, making her feel much more at ease. After the inspection, one of the police officers came over and mumbled something. Yi Huanyan looked at Ling Han blankly. "What did he say?" Ling Han gave her a comforting look, then exchanged a few words with the police officer in fluent English. He turned to look at Yi Huanyan and winked mischievously. "Okay, the matter is settled. Pack your suitcase, we can leave now." When they left the airport, it was already dark outside. "It's too late. Why don't I take you out for dinner first?" Yi Huanyan hurriedly waved her hand. "I'm already very embarrassed to trouble you to send me to the hotel, so it's better not to." Although she said that, her disappointing stomach suddenly let out a growl. The sound was particularly obvious at the entrance of the airport, where there were very few people. Beside her, there was a soft laugh. Yi Huanyan looked up awkwardly. She could see that Ling Han was trying hard to hold back his laughter, but he couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. Yi Huanyan touched her embarrassed stomach and said embarrassedly, "This is a normal reaction." Ling Han stopped smiling and said seriously, "Let's eat together. The restaurant is not far from the airport, and it's the same road as the one that sent you back to the hotel." Since it was like this, Yi Huanyan couldn't refuse. 10 minutes later, Ling Han took her to a seafood stall. The environment in the restaurant was not elegant, but the owner and lady boss were very friendly. They spoke in a language that Yi Huanyan couldn't understand, but the smile on their faces was very infectious. "How do you feel?" Ling Han placed his order and turned around to look behind him. Yi Huanyan pursed her lips. "Do you want to hear the truth?" "Of course. It's actually very ordinary. It's not much different from the seafood stalls in China." Ling Han seemed to have expected her to say this. He turned to the stall owner and said something. Then he looked at Yi Huanyan and smiled. "Come with me." He led Yi Huanyan out of the back door of the food stall, and they were greeted by the pleasant sea breeze. Her long hair fluttered in the wind, and her brown plaid skirt fluttered in the wind as if she was dragging a long tail behind her. There was a bright moon in the distance, reflecting a sparkling light on the surface of the sea, dragging a long shadow. The waves beat against the reef. Looking at it from a high point on the beach that was not man-made, it was a magnificent sight. "Wow, this place is so beautiful." Her eyes lit up, and she couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. "Our seat is over there." Ling Han pointed at the reef in the distance. The natural seascape barbecue was more peaceful than the bustling streets that were overcrowded after the opening of business. In addition, the taste of this seafood stall was indeed very unique. Their entire body and mind were released, and the gloominess of the day was swept away. "Do you come here often?" she asked excitedly. "Yes, I always fly here and there. I'm very familiar with this place. It's like a second home. Especially when I'm unhappy, I'll come here. When the sea breeze blows, everything will be forgotten." Looking at the silhouette of the woman standing on the reef with her arms wide open, Ling Han felt a strange feeling that he had never felt before. It wasn't that he had never met a woman before. In their line of work, they would meet all kinds of people, but this woman in front of him gave him a strange feeling. "Do you often bring girls here?" Her voice interrupted his thoughts. He was slightly stunned, and he smiled in her direction. "If I said that you were the first girl I brought here, would you believe me?" "Of course not." Her voice was mixed with the sound of the waves, and he could only tell what she was saying from the shape of her mouth. She tilted her head, put her hands behind her back, and smiled at him meaningfully. "A handsome and sweet man like you wouldn't come to such a remote food stall to eat alone, right?" Ling Han was slightly taken aback, and his gaze deepened as he looked at her. After a while he shrugged and said helplessly, "Okay, I admit, this place was brought to me by a local girl. She was a very beautiful girl." "Yes, very beautiful. She had a pair of eyes like sapphires." "You two were together?" "Yes, we were together." Ling Han's eyes suddenly dimmed. But then she passed away unexpectedly, just one day before the wedding. Yi Huanyan's expression changed, and her smile froze at the corner of her mouth. "I'm sorry." His smile was a little forced. "It's okay. After so many years, I've thought it through. Maybe it's because we weren't fated to be together. Her eyes are very similar to yours, like the stars in the sky." He sat on the edge of the reef, looking in the direction of the waves, and his back looked very sad. Yi Huanyan's eyes flashed with a trace of sadness. Love stories were always the most touching when they had tragic endings, and tragic endings were always the most memorable. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mention this." She took a step in his direction, raised her hand, and patted his shoulder. "Can I hug you? You really look like her," he asked. Yi Huanyan patted his shoulder harder, and her eyes almost rolled to the sky. "Hey, that's enough. Sapphires like eyes, and they look like mine." "Are my eyes sapphires?" His lie to gain sympathy was exposed, and a trace of embarrassment flashed in Ling Han's eyes. He touched his shoulder that hurt from the pat and frowned. Ahem. I was just joking. You're trying to gain sympathy and take advantage of her, right? I'm a man. If I really want to take advantage of you. This place is so remote. Can you hide? I've practiced martial arts. Do you want to try? After a few words, the two stared at each other, and after a few seconds of stalemate, they suddenly looked at each other and smiled. How many girls have you fooled with this kind of lame story? And there really are quite a few, but an exception like you're the first. These girls are too illogical. The scenery is beautiful. The people are beautiful. There are many people who come here to hunt. Who cares if what you say is true or false? I care. The false will never become true. Even if you deceive yourself, it's useless, and it will disappear in the blink of an eye. But the true will always be the most profound in my memory. Even if it's not so beautiful, it will still be the most profound. Just a moment ago, Ling Han had been treating this rather sweet-looking woman as a target for this flight, but after hearing her words, his heart had quietly undergone a change that even he himself wasn't aware of. He put away the flirtatious teasing and seriously looked at the woman in front of him, a naive yet mature woman. Chapter 104. In fact, the sunrise here is more beautiful. When Ling Han said this, Yi Huanyan's face showed a strange look. It's getting late. I should go back to the hotel. Don't get me wrong. I just want to say, if you have time later, can I invite you to come and see the sunrise? The sincerity in his eyes was very moving, and Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Waking up from the infirmary, in a few words, she almost learned that the air steward, who was considered a warm man by most girls at first impression, was a man who was ambiguous by nature. He treated women with ease and directly showed how much he had a romantic past. She had seen more than one man who was romantic by nature. She almost didn't hesitate. She held the scattered long hair on her temples and smiled. Okay. He didn't know why. When he heard her agree so simply, Ling Han suddenly felt that he was being perfunctory. He couldn't help frowning. When he saw her flat face, this feeling became more and more obvious. He was sure it was not an illusion. There was an indescribable sense of mystery in this woman, which made her feel extraordinarily attractive. It seemed that she was different from the women he had met before. Her body was full of the temptation of purity and beauty, which made people want to have it. Bali Holiday Hotel, Presidential Suite. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows was a huge swimming pool. Hot beauties in bikinis were frolicking by the water. Looking into the distance, there was an endless coastline. Under the night sky, only the sound of the waves could be heard. Ling Han stood in front of the window and made 2 phone calls, both of which were turned off. His face was completely dark. At this time, Sheng Anren just came out of the bath, put on light makeup, removed the beauty of the past, and deliberately made a bit of a pure look, but a piece of black lace pajama strap exposed from the bathrobe betrayed this artificial purity. Han, why don't you look well? She took Ling Han's arm from behind and showed a perfect smile. Are you hungry? I'll accompany you to eat. Ling Han frowned, looked down at the 2 phone calls that had been made without any response, and pulled his arm out of Sheng Anren's hand. I have something to do. You can eat by yourself. Hey, Han, where are you going? Sheng Anren's questioning did not get any response. Her high-heeled shoes stepped on the cashmere carpet, and her scream was drowned in the loud sound of Ling Han closing the door. She sat down on the carpet and rubbed her ankles while taking off her black strappy high heels. She stared at the closed door for a few seconds, and there was a trace of coldness in her eyes. The phone beside her rang. She glanced at it, frowned, and picked up the call. What's the matter? Big Sisson ran. We saw President Ling go out. Looking at the direction he seems to be heading towards the airport, Sheng Anren's face became more and more gloomy. He clenched the high-heeled shoes in his hand, then raised them high and smashed them toward the door. The high-heeled shoes hit the door panel, making a loud noise, and fell to the carpet. The expensive custom-made high-heeled shoes were ignored at this moment, like discarded garbage. Late at night, Ling Han sent Yi Huanyan safely back to the hotel and carefully helped her with her luggage. "You're staying in this hotel?" "Yes, what's the matter?" "What a coincidence. I'm going to relax here this time. After work today, I'll come here tomorrow for a short trip at the end of the year. But the hotel hasn't been booked yet. If I say that I'll stay here, you won't mind, right?" Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned, then immediately smiled and said, "The hotel is here, and it's not owned by my family. Of course, I don't mind if you want to stay. I mean, if I'm free, I don't know if I'll be lucky enough to meet you again." Ling Han blinked and added wittily, "By the way, I'm very familiar with this place. I can reduce the possibility of you taking a lot of unnecessary detours. If so, of course, I'd be honored, but—" Yi Huanyan shrugged helplessly. "I'm not here for tourism, but for work. My colleagues are all staying in this hotel. As a behind-the-scenes staff, I'm afraid I don't have time to rest." A trace of loss flashed in Ling Han's eyes, but she still insisted, "Not at all. It's the first time I've been rejected by a beauty like this. It sounds like an excuse. What should I do? I'm so disappointed." Yi Huanyan was shocked by his exaggerated disappointment. She spread her hands and said helplessly, "How about this? If you really stay in this hotel, when I'm not busy, I'll have time to listen to you explain the local customs here. We can walk by the beach and enjoy the sea breeze. Or, like you said, we can watch the sunrise together. What do you think? Does this count as a promise?" Ling Han had a smile in her eyes. Her sly expression made her look like a fox. "Promise you what?" Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. "Go on a date with me." "Hey, that's not what I meant." Yi Huanyan pushed him a little embarrassedly. In a taxi not far away, a pair of deep eyes were filled with gloom. The driver's voice in English sounded in the car. "Sir, we've arrived at the hotel." The man pulled out a stack of local banknotes from his wallet and threw it on the seat. Then he got out of the car with a cold face and walked towards a figure who was pulling her suitcase and preparing to check in at the front desk. Yi Huanyan gestured and spoke in broken English to the front desk. "Excuse me, help me with the check-in procedures," the front desk babbled for a long time. She barely understood a word that sounded like document. She hurriedly took out her ID card and handed it over. The procedures were completed quickly. The front desk lady took out the room card with a smile and handed it to her. Just as she raised her head, a large hand fell from the sky. Yi Huanyan watched as her room card fell into someone else's hand. She turned around in surprise and met a pair of cold eyes. "Where did you go?" It was obvious that he was questioning her in a sullen tone. This kind of question was just a kind of humiliation in Yi Huanyan's heart. He was clearly the one who left her alone at the airport. He clearly knew that her English was not good and she was unfamiliar with this place. How could he do such a thing? She had countless questions in her heart, but when the words came to her mouth, she swallowed them all back. "President Ling, I'm not feeling well. I came back late from the airport. If there was any work delay, I'm really sorry." The coldness in Ling Han's eyes was spreading little by little. The receptionist at the front desk was looking at the two of them in confusion. The entire hotel was almost booked by pleasure, and the artists coming and going were also looking at them with different expressions. Yi Huanyan suddenly realized something. She gritted her teeth and reminded him, "President Ling, please mind your words and actions in public." She actually dared to threaten him. She had really grown up. The coldness in his eyes had dropped to the freezing point. "Is that so? Well then, let's change to a place where no one is around to talk. President Ling, it's after work time. If you want to sleep on the streets after work time, then don't come." Ling Han held a room card between his index and middle fingers. He sneered and walked towards the elevator without looking back. Yi Huanyan's heart sank. She gritted her teeth and followed him. Chapter 105. The room card was placed against the sensor, and after a beep, the door opened automatically. Ling Han turned around and glanced at her with a cold expression. "Come in." Yi Huanyan pulled her suitcase and followed him in with a frown. At the corner of the corridor stood three indistinct figures. Their expressions were different, as if they had seen some incredible gossip. They looked at each other in bewilderment. As soon as she entered, Yi Huanyan leaned against the door. The man in front of her turned around and handed her the room card. Just as she was about to take it, a gust of wind blew past her ear. With a loud bang, a large hand passed through the air beside her right cheek and pressed against the door panel, closing the door tightly. Beep, beep, beep. The sensor beeped a few times, and the room returned to silence. She raised her head abruptly, and their eyes met. A pair of cold eyes. A pair of panicked eyes. "Where did you go after getting off the plane?" He enunciated each word clearly, and every word was filled with coldness. Yi Huanyan bit her lip. Her face turned pale when she thought about what had happened at the airport this evening, and how she had suddenly fainted in the restaurant. At the airport. He sneered. "Everyone has arrived at the hotel. Why did you stay at the airport for more than 4 hours?" "Why?" Yi Huanyan raised her head in disbelief. "Don't you know why? Speak clearly." Ling Han's face darkened. He didn't know what Yi Huanyan was referring to, but he vaguely realized that there was something wrong with her coming back so late. "There's nothing to say. Please move aside. I'm off work. I just want to rest now." She glanced at the arm beside her from the corner of her eye. She made up her mind and turned around, trying to leave his binding range. "Who's that man?" She felt a sharp pain in her shoulder. Her cheeks twitched slightly. She frowned and asked subconsciously, "What man?" "The man who sent you to the entrance of the hotel and was intimate with you." Yi Huanyan's face stiffened, and her frown deepened. She knew that if she couldn't explain clearly, there would be endless arguments and entanglement. She was very tired and just wanted to end this stalemate as soon as possible. "Air steward of the airport, the flight we took. What I'm asking is, what does it have to do with you?" Yi Huanyan raised her eyes to look at him. The anger in his eyes made her reveal a trace of astonishment. "We just met. He's just sending me back." "Someone you just met is so kind as to send you back? Yi Huanyan, do you have a brain?" When she heard this, a thought that she couldn't believe flashed through her mind. Perhaps Ling Han was concerned about her? However, this thought was quickly dispelled. Instead, it was replaced by the thought that if he hadn't made a scene in the bathroom, she wouldn't have fainted at the airport. "You're thinking too much. He's very nice. He even treated me to a meal on the way back." Her indifferent words caused Ling Han's expression to darken even more. "You even ate with him?" He frowned as the tip of his nose caught a whiff of smoke. Yi Huanyan lowered her head in silence. "You have time to eat, but you don't have time to rush back to the hotel on time?" The force on her shoulder increased, and she twisted it painfully. A painful groan escaped from her teeth. She gritted her teeth and finally reached the peak of her anger. She fiercely broke free from his shackles, pushed his arm away, and roared, "I don't even have the freedom to eat with others? Ling Han, do you know that I fainted at the airport alone? When I woke up, there was no one I knew around me. I couldn't understand what they were saying at all. Where were you at that time? Don't talk about going back to the hotel. If no one had found me, I might have died on the plane. Are you satisfied?" Her roar echoed in the room. Ling Han's arm hung in the air, still in the position that she had pushed away. He didn't come back to his senses for a long time. The coldness in his eyes hadn't dissipated yet, but a layer of astonishment appeared. "You fainted at the airport?" No one had told him about this. "Yes, are you satisfied?" Her nose was sour and her eyes were red. Crystal tears welled up in her eyes, and she looked extremely aggrieved. Ling Han frowned and wanted to say something, but was interrupted by the sudden ringtone of the phone. Yi Huanyan caught a glimpse of Sheng Anren's name on the phone from the corner of her eye. She gritted her teeth, raised her sleeve to wipe her tears, and walked out of his shadow. Without saying a word, she pulled the suitcase to the bedside to unpack. Her voice was very dull. "President Ling, I want to rest. If you have any questions, I want to report to you tomorrow." Ling Han held the phone, and stared at the thin back of the woman in a daze. A trace of regret appeared in his eyes. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't. The sound of the door closing behind her was not loud, but it made Yi Huanyan's heart tremble. After the door was closed, her fingers froze on the password lock of the suitcase, and she couldn't move anymore. Her tears finally couldn't stop, and they fell to the ground like broken pearls. She didn't know whether she was crying because of the pain in her shoulder, or because her heart was broken because of the man who hurt her again and again, or because she just felt wronged because of the bad experience of today. It seemed that a lot of emotions were mixed together. She wanted to vent, but she didn't even have the strength to speak. In the end, she could only let her tears fall, soak the sheets, and fall asleep. In the presidential suite, Sheng Anren was holding the mobile phone, and her face was very ugly. There were photos sent by Rui Shui and others on the mobile phone. The picture of Ling Han and Yi Huanyan entering the room one after another was very clear. Chapter 106. The security of the holiday hotel is very good. What's more, most of the hotel is booked by pleasure. All the artists of pleasure live on this floor. Yi Huanyan doesn't worry about any bad guys outside, so he opens the door directly. The woman standing at the door is tall and has the proportion of a model. Her chestnut wavy hair is spread over her shoulders. Her black floral suspender dress is very charming. Even women can't take their eyes off her. "Miss Sheng, what can I do for you so late?" Yi Huanyan is stunned. "I heard from Han that you just came back from the airport. I was afraid that you didn't eat, so I brought you some snacks." Sheng Anren's face is calm, but there is some meaning in his eyes. "Is it convenient? Can I go in?" Yi Huanyan is stunned for a few seconds. He frowns and gives way. Yes. She is not very familiar with Sheng Anren. The behavior of preparing snacks for her so late at night is either to ask her to do something or to pay a New Year's visit to a weasel. He has no good intentions. She moves the clothes on the sofa to the bed and says embarrassedly, "Sit down. It's a little messy here." Sheng Anren looks at her from head to toe. For the first time, he feels that Yi Huanyan is not as old-fashioned and serious as he usually looks. I'm afraid that he is frivolous to the home. Yi Huanyan dried her hair and wrapped it up with a bath towel. Then she pulled a chair and looked into Sheng Anren's eyes. "Miss Sheng, you care about me so much because of President Ling, right?" Sheng Anren's face changes slightly. He is surprised that Yi Huanyan dares to mention Ling Han in front of him. Yi Huanyan lowers his head slightly and stuffs a strand of wet hair on his shoulder into the bath towel. He looks natural, as if there is no flaw. "Although I am the secretary of President Ling, I only deal with work matters. If you have anything to say to President Ling, I may not be able to help." "Secretary Yi, do you think I come to you to ask you to do something?" Yi Huanyan's action of tidying up his hair is slightly stiff, and he slowly raises his head to look at her. If that was the case, then he was probably up to no good. Sheng Anren raised one leg and gently overlapped the other leg, showing the smooth white long leg in front of Yi Huanyan. For a moment, the scenery under the skirt was visible at a glance. Yi Huanyan awkwardly looked away. Sheng Anren's faint voice sounded in the room. "In the past, I didn't realize that Secretary Yi had such a good figure. Those old-fashioned work clothes really wronged such a good foundation. If I said that you were an artist in the company, probably no one would refute. Secretary Yi is 26 or 27 years old this year, right? Do you have a boyfriend?" It was supposed to be a compliment, but when it came out of her mouth, it made people panic. "Miss Sheng, this seems to be a private matter of mine. There's no need to publicize it." Yi Huanyan frowned as he looked at her, faintly realizing that she had come with ill intentions. "Secretary Yi, I also understand that a person who has been working hard around Han for a long time may not have time to fall in love. If there is a chance, I would like to introduce some friends to Secretary Yi." "No need." A look of disgust appeared on Yi Huanyan's face. Sheng Anren suddenly laughed. so eager to refuse, Secretary Yi. Do you have any favorite candidate in your heart? Her eyes flashed with cold light, and her face was faintly blue. Secretary Yi, I advise you to look for a man. You should wipe your eyes. You can't get close to anyone. At that time, you will suffer a loss. You can't get any benefits. You will also ruin your future. But the gain is not worth the loss. Yi Huanyan's face changed and gradually turned white. What do you mean? Sheng Anren raised his eyes with a contemptuous look. I know everything about you and Han. You don't have to hide it. In this case, let's open the sky window and talk frankly. Say it. What do you want? I will satisfy you within the right range. I only have one request. Don't pester Han anymore. These days, people die for money and birds die for food. She believed that Ling Han would not marry a secretary without power and influence. Yi Huanyan should also know this, so it was better to seize what she could get when she could get something. Secretary Yi, you are a smart person. I don't have so much patience, so I hope you can make a decision now, and your decision will determine what attitude I will have to you in the future. I don't think you want to experience something like the airport again, do you? What happened at the airport? What? Secretary's temper is so bad? You forgot it so soon? Looking at Sheng Anren's proud face, she suddenly remembered that she fainted in the restaurant inexplicably. Before that, the little artist who didn't know her gave her a cup of brown sugar water. Yi Huanyan's face gradually turned ugly. She slowly took a breath, and her face became cold. When encountering such a thing, she would have retreated if she could. But today, it was Sheng Anren who went too far. Miss Sheng, I was taught what happened at the airport. I admit that I was unlucky. But no matter what my relationship with President Ling is, I want to ask, in what capacity do you talk to me about this? The proud look on Sheng Anren's face slightly stagnated. What do you mean? People all over the country know that she and Ling Han go in and out together and show affection on various occasions. The whole pleasure group treat her as the future Mrs. Ling and respect her. Now she is a secretary. Is she openly questioning her weight in Ling Han's heart? I don't mean anything. When Miss Sheng reminds me to put my position in the right place, I also hope that Miss Sheng can have self-awareness to put your position in the right place. If I remember correctly, President Ling has never officially announced to anyone who you are. In addition to the artist signed by the company, what other identity do you have, Miss Sheng? She sneered. Or what qualifications do you have to say these words to me? Yi Huanyan. Sheng Anren raised her voice and was so angry that she couldn't speak. Her face was filled with anger. No one had ever dared to not give her face like this. Even those wild flowers and weeds by Ling Han's side in the past would turn pale when they saw her. With just a few words, they would be so scared that they would give up and not dare to have too much contact with Ling Han. Yi Huanyan is really the chief secretary of the pleasure group. She can enter the pleasure group as soon as she graduates. She has been the chief secretary for so long. She is really calm and has some skills. Yi Huanyan is not afraid at all. She looks at her coldly with her arms crossed. Miss Sheng, I don't have the habit of eating supper. Please bring your snacks with you when you leave. I'll also give you a small suggestion. Don't eat supper at night and maintain a good figure. Perhaps you can stay by President Ling's side a little longer. Sheng Anren clenched her fists and stared at her with gnashing teeth, as if she wanted to eat her. Wait for me. I don't mean to go against you. Yi Huanyan looked at the door and explained casually, I'm just a secretary. I do my job well, that's all. She meant to show goodwill, but her previous words had angered Sheng Anren. These words were more like a demonstration in her ears. Chapter 107. Coming out of Yi Huanyan's room, Sheng Anren's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Before returning to the room, he sent a text message and gripped his phone tightly. I want you to torture her to death. It's best to let her leave Bali as soon as possible. After it's done, you'll be rewarded. The next morning, Yi Huanyan went out early to prepare for the banquet. The banquet was on the beach near the hotel. Before coming, she had negotiated with the hotel staff. They would be responsible for the main layout. The host of the banquet would be Pleasure's own artist. Most of the complicated work had been communicated in China. Now she only needed to watch the banquet and not be lazy, so it was easy. When setting up the stage, she held the layout blueprint in her hand and directed the placement of various flower beds and carpets. Secretary, where is the sound system here? Behind the background wall. Pay attention to the lines. Don't let the artists and customers trip. Is the bonfire ready? It's too late to make the bonfire at night, right? It's ready in advance in case there are any accidents at night. Okay, then let's go find the prop master first. I'll wait for you here. After a series of instructions, Yi Huanyan's face was full of sweat. She took out a bottle of mineral water from her bag and unscrewed the cap, only to find that there was not a drop left. The tropical area was indeed only suitable for lazily blowing the wind. Doing a little thing would make people collapse. Just as she was feeling annoyed, a hand reached out from within her sight. It was holding a bottle of iced mineral water. The outer packaging was dripping water, making people feel refreshed under the hot sun. Beauty Yi. A familiar voice sounded beside her. She suddenly raised her head and looked at the person in surprise. Thinking of what happened the night before, she smiled knowingly. You really live here? Ling Han was dressed in a blue floral holiday singlet and shorts. His whole person was very casual and lazy. His face under the sunglasses was very white and delicate, making people envious. Do I look like the kind of person who lies to little girls all day long? Ling Han blinked, looking a little playful. You look like it, but I'm not a little girl. After saying this, the two looked at each other and laughed tacitly. She took the bottle of mineral water from Ling Han's hands and gulped down a few mouthfuls, not bothering to hide her boldness. Ling Han had just finished the procedures for his shift last night, and he was still pulling his suitcase. It was obvious that he had not checked in yet, so Yi Huanyan took the initiative to bring him to the front desk. When our company made the reservation, we booked a few more rooms in case of emergencies. Now that everyone is here, it's not easy to return the empty rooms. Later, you can just say that you're from our company. Consider it as me offering you a gift of your own. Thank you for sending me back last night. There was a smile in Ling Han's eyes. Does this count as using your position for personal gain? If the boss finds out, it won't be good. It doesn't matter. Our boss never takes these trivial matters seriously. On the observation deck on the second floor of a hotel, a pair of deep eyes reflected the scene of a man and a woman laughing wantonly on the beach. The man's face suddenly darkened. He stood up from the recliner and strode into the room. At the front desk, Yi Huanyan took Ling Han's ID card and handed it to the front desk receptionist. She used broken English to explain that this was the first batch of company employees who had arrived after the flight was delayed and were preparing to check in. Ling Han, who was standing at the side, let out a mocking laugh when he saw how unperturbed her expression was. What are you laughing at? Isn't it good to save money for you? This hotel isn't cheap. You've earned back the barbecue you treated me to. Yi Huanyan's face was slightly red. After all, she was also offering him a gift of his own. She did not have to be so self-righteous. Ling Han restrained his smile. Why did I use the money I saved to treat you to some other interesting things? Before Yi Huanyan could think of a reply, her gaze looked over Ling Han's shoulder and saw the figure striding over in the distance. Her face suddenly froze. Why was she so unlucky? Shouldn't he be eating breakfast at this time? Secretary Yi, the expected voice suddenly sounded, with a hint of coldness. Instead of helping to set up the scene early in the morning, you're fooling around with a strange man at the front desk of the hotel. Don't you want your job anymore? Ling Han, who was beside her, frowned and sized up the person. From his tone, he guessed that this person was probably Yi Huanyan's superior. So he helped to explain. Sir, I'm preparing to check in to this hotel. I'm just asking her to lead the way. Lead the way. Ling Han sneered. You were leading the way last night too? Ling Han was surprised. The front desk receptionist had already completed the check-in procedures and returned the ID card. She spoke fluent English and said that Ling Han was an employee of pleasure. With this, she directly exposed Yi Huanyin's intentions of using her position for personal gain. Her heart sank as she watched Ling Han walk past Ling Han and take the ID card from the receptionist. After glancing at it, he sneered and said 2 words meaningfully. Ling Han. Yi Huanyin swallowed. She felt that her throat was too tight, and she couldn't say a word. She didn't know what Ling Han said to the front desk receptionist, but she felt that his expression gradually turned ugly. He snatched the ID card and looked at Yi Huanyin angrily. Miss Yi, I think it's better for me to check in to another hotel. Let's contact again when we have time. Yi Huanyin was confused as she watched him leave with his luggage without looking back. A meaningful sneer sounded in his ears. Ling Han. Yi Huanyin, you're really something. It's me who didn't satisfy you. So you went through so much trouble to find such a substandard substitute to satisfy your dedication, right? It was a naked humiliation. Yi Huanyin's face turned green. She looked up at him. What did you say to the front desk? You want to know? I said. Ling Han looked at her stunned expression, and a playful look flashed across his eyes. He stuffed a room card into Yi Huanyin's hand, and his breath brushed past her neck. It was extremely flirtatious. Come over at 9:30 tonight, and I'll tell you. She tried to push the room card back, but was warned by his cold eyes. It's your business whether you come or not. You can guess what I'll do if you're just a minute late. She actually didn't know what Ling Han would do. Perhaps he would punish her even more harshly, or perhaps he would threaten her with Ji Xiaoya's job like he did in the past. Actually, no matter how she thought about it, the funny thing was that she didn't have many things that belonged to her in this world. In the end, his threats were all because he was trampling on her love for him from the bottom of her heart. In the end, she was the one who let herself fall. She was the one who let others take advantage of her. She clenched her fingers. Sweat soaked the room card, and her face was excessively pale. Chapter 108. At the beginning of the night, the beach was ablaze with lights. The artists who paid attention to skincare and dared not go out in the daytime came out in full force at this moment, competing to put on various small dresses, and actively made friends with various clients who could bring them resources. If they were lucky, they might find a financier who could promote them. This was the core value of this trip to begin with. It might sound like an unimaginable lascivious party, but this was how the industry worked. Besides, everyone was willing. Even Ling Han couldn't casually interfere with this kind of effort made by an artist to climb up the social ladder. Yi Huanyin didn't plan to attend this kind of banquet where hundreds of flowers bloomed. After preparing for the carnival party, she went back to her room to change out of her sweaty work clothes. She wore a low-key loose black dress shirt, and her waist was nowhere to be found. Ji Xiaoya said when she saw this dress for the first time, "With your black bun, you are totally an old Taoist nun." Yi Huanyin was very willing to dress herself up as an old Taoist nun. In this way, no one would notice her in the crowd. She only needed to symbolically clink glasses with the artists and clients to make sure that they were not uncomfortable and had a good time. Then, her task tonight would be considered completed. When she met Sheng Anren, she was surrounded by a group of small transparent artists in the company. A few compliments fell into Yi Huanyin's ears, which made her a little sick. She just wanted to avoid her eyes quickly. She couldn't afford to offend, but she could always hide. "Secretary Yi is here too?" Sheng Anren's voice was sharp and thin, which sounded a little harsh. She still couldn't escape. Yi Huanyin had to face the difficulties. She smiled slightly with a wine glass in her hand and said in a serious official tone, "Miss Sheng, is the banquet satisfactory? Are you having a good time?" Sheng Anren looked at her dress, and a trace of strangeness flashed in her eyes. Isn't it inappropriate for Secretary Yi to dress so simply for such a big occasion? The surrounding artists all looked at him with disdain. Yi Huanyin smiled sheepishly. "I'm a behind-the-scenes worker, so I don't have to dress so formally like everyone else. As long as everyone is fun, it's fine." What are you talking about? It's all thanks to Secretary Yi that we were able to complete this trip so smoothly. How can we let our great contributor be so shameful? A faint light flashed in Shang Anren's eyes. How about this, Xiao Shui? You guys take Secretary Yi to get changed. That's a good idea. My figure is similar to Secretary Ye's. Let's exchange for mine. Zhao Bingqing looked very agreeable, for fear that others would not know that she and Shang Anren were on the same side. No need, Yi Huanyan didn't expect that these weak female artists could be so strong. She was almost dragged away by the three people around Shang Anren, and she had no ability to resist at all. Secretary Yi, don't decline. Do you think we'll eat you? In the midst of the tugging, there was the sound of clothes tearing in the air. Her expression stiffened, and her voice turned cold. What are you doing? The three people looked at each other. At this time, what Rui Shui tore in her hand was the zipper on the side of the shirt skirt. Without the support of the zipper, the whole armpit was completely open, and the black bra was exposed. Yi Huanyan covered her clothes and hurriedly hid in the dressing room. Well, I didn't mean to. You don't be angry, Secretary. I'll compensate you. Rui Shui stood at the door of the dressing room with a guilty face. Lin Jie hurried from the direction of the hotel with a bag in her hand. The dress, Yi Huanyan sat on the sofa in the dressing room, staring at the white evening dress in her hand, and her eyebrows were full of displeasure. Her intuition told her that the minions around Shang Anren were up to no good. The incident of the brown sugar water had made her miserable enough. What tricks did they want to play this time? However, since her clothes were torn, she couldn't just walk back to the wine room with her bra exposed. She could only sigh and accept her fate. She checked the evening gown from top to bottom. After confirming that there was no odor or intentional flaw, she reluctantly put it on. Because it was a strapless dress, there were also breast pads in the bag. She couldn't expose the shoulders of her underwear. She could only take off her underwear and put on the breast pads. She braced herself and walked out of the dressing room. The three people guarding outside the door saw Yi Huanyan come out. They all widened their eyes and looked surprised. She usually dressed conservatively, but at this moment, she didn't look dark at all in this white evening dress. Her white shoulders, small collarbone, and exquisite figure were very attractive. Zhao Bingqing couldn't help but secretly glare at Lin Jie, and her mouth scolded her for choosing such a suit for her. Lin Jie blinked aggrievedly. Rui Shui asked her to take the dress. Like I said, Secretary Yi is a beauty. You will definitely be gorgeous in this evening dress. Rui Shui's mouth seemed to be smeared with honey, and she kept praising. Yi Huanyan couldn't stand the disturbance. She held the bag with her clothes and bra in one hand and the skirt in the other hand. Her expression was cold. I'll go back to the hotel to change. I'll return it to you after I change. Hey, the swimming pool is lively now. Secretary Yi, don't you want to play? No, you can play. That's a pity. It's rare to wear such beautiful clothes. Listening to the three people talking excitedly, Yi Huanyan felt disgusted to the extreme. Is it interesting to follow Shang Anren and mess with others? Don't think that you have done something great. She will look at you differently. If something goes wrong, you will be the first to be pushed out as a shield. Secretary Yi, what are you talking about? The three people guiltily avoided her eyes. What brown sugar water at the airport? Miss Zhao, there is nothing wrong with my brain. Such a low-level method. Please don't use it in the future. Yi Huanyan coldly glanced at Zhao Bingqing. I'm not in a good mood today. Please stay away from me. After saying this, she walked into the depths of the crowd without looking back. The remaining three people stood there and looked at each other, their faces more ugly than the other. They had to pass by the swimming pool to return to the hotel from the dressing room. At this moment, the swimming pool was bustling with people. Many customers gathered around the swimming pool to admire the attractive figures of the bikini beauties. Yi Huanyan lifted her skirt and walked a few steps before Zhao Bingqing shouted behind her. Secretary Yi, wait a minute. I have something to tell you. Yi Huanyan frowned and her face sank. What else do you have to say? Was there an end to it? I'm sorry about what happened on the plane. Zhao Bingqing stared at her with guilt in her eyes. But in our line of work, we are most afraid of offending people, so I had no choice. It really wasn't my intention. I promise I won't do such a thing in the future. I was blinded at that time. Her eyes were red and she looked like she was about to cry. Forget it, I don't intend to be calculative about these things. Yi Huanyan frowned even more. She looked around, afraid that others would think that she was bullying this pitiful little artiste. It's one thing to do, two things are the same. I think you won't be calculative about it. The voice in her ears suddenly became gloomy. Before she could react, she felt a heavy weight on her shoulders. She suddenly lost her balance and fell into the swimming pool. Water splashed everywhere. Her mouth and nose were filled with swimming pool water. She couldn't find any support on her body. Fear flooded her. Chapter 109. Yi Huanyan only felt that her body was as heavy as a lead weight. After her dress was soaked, the weight increased and she kept sinking. She couldn't use any of her swimming skills. In her panic, she had already gulped down several mouthfuls of water. She heard screams and shouts. Her body seemed to have been pushed by someone under the water. Her toes touched the bottom of the pool. After struggling a few times, she staggered to stand firm. The pool wasn't deep. The water level only reached Yi Huanyan's waist. As soon as she stood firm, she heard a lot of noise. There was laughter and discussion. She wiped her face and forced herself to open her eyes. There were many people standing by the pool. They were looking at her with different expressions. Like monkeys in a zoo, they gave out sympathetic, shocked, erotic, or shy gazes. She followed those people's gazes and lowered her head. The white dress clung to her body and was soaked in water. The two symmetrical flesh-colored breast pads on her left and right were very obvious. In an instant, there was a roar in her head. She suddenly covered her chest and squatted in the water. Her eyebrows drooped, and she bit her lips tightly. She did not dare to raise her head, but the constant laughter and discussions entered her head from the corner of her eyes. It was as if she had stepped into a minefield, and all kinds of explosions kept happening, until her ears couldn't hear anything. There was only a buzzing sound left. Isn't that Secretary Yi? How did she fall in such a big place? What do you mean fall in? She's wearing this kind of dress by the pool. She did it on purpose, right? It was unknown who whistled. Those men who hadn't reacted before seemed to release their natural instincts. They followed along and laughed. Some people even threw balloons into the pool. Some people even directly jumped into the water and swam past Yi Huanyan. However, no one wanted to help her. Those ambiguous gazes, those mocking and ridiculing faces, those adding insult to injury, pushed the atmosphere of the pool party to a climax. She squatted in the water and slowly walked to the edge. The heavy dress made it difficult for her to take a step. She even felt that the dress was so heavy that it was about to fall from her chest. She had to free one hand to hold the dress. She gritted her teeth, refusing to let her tears fall. However, when she reached the shore, those people were still looking at her. The white gauze on her body was no different from being naked. She gritted her teeth and her eyes reddened. When she looked up, she saw a familiar figure standing in the corner. Ling Han's eyes swept over her as if he didn't see her. He took the wine glass from Sheng Anren's hand and smiled. She turned her head with a pained look in her eyes. For a moment, she even thought that if the pool was deep enough, it would be good to drown here. Miss, the hotel waiter hurried over, squatted by the pool, and extended his hand to her. He handed her a black suit jacket and said a bunch of English, but she didn't understand at all. At this moment, the jacket was her last hope. She hugged the jacket and put it on in the water. She did her best to fasten every button, and then climbed out of the water with the help of the waiter. He was in an extremely sorry state. Standing by the pool, the large men's suit was like a broken sack on her body. A pair of slender legs were clinging to the white gauze, which was faintly discernible and seductive. The sound of whistling became more and more jubilant. She grabbed the hem of the jacket and lifted the wet skirt. She gritted her teeth and glanced at the corner, but she didn't get any response. The noise around her seemed to have nothing to do with her. Whether it was the laughter, the whistling, or the manic sound of someone suddenly turning on the sound system, they were all like the liveliness of another parallel world, gradually drifting away from her. She couldn't avoid the party that was reaching its climax. She ran back to the hotel barefoot with her last strength. As soon as she returned to the room, she closed the door and burst into tears. In his eyes, she was just a woman who could be played with. So even if she was in such a mess, it was not a big deal in his eyes. In the corner of the party, Sheng Anren retracted his gaze from the direction where Yi Huanyan had just disappeared and said jokingly, "Secretary Ye's figure is really good. Thanks to her, this party is much livelier now." As soon as his voice fell, he looked up and met Ling Han's cold eyes. He held a wine glass and stared at the male artists who took the lead in whistling. He raised his head and drank the wine in the glass in one gulp. Her eyes were slightly sluggish, and her chest tightened for no reason. Ling Han looked at her with an indifference that had never been seen before. "It was your people who pushed Secretary Yi into the water, right?" Her face suddenly froze. She secretly pinched her thigh and forced herself to make a puzzled expression. She frowned and said, "Who? Who pushed Secretary Yi into the water?" Ling Han sneered. "Your way of doing things is too low. I don't care about those people in the past, but don't go too far with the people around me. She is my secretary. You humiliated her like this. Are you planning to slap my face?" "Han, that's not what I meant. Today's party is boring. I'll go back first. You can continue to play." He put down the wine glass, glanced at her, and left resolutely. Sheng Anren's eyes froze, and he didn't come back to his senses for a long time. In the past, he could turn a blind eye to so many things. Why couldn't Yi Huanyan? Or was it that Ling Han really treated Yi Huanyan differently? A trace of viciousness flashed in her eyes. Yi Huanyan had to be on guard against this. When he walked to the door of Yi Huanyan's room, the waiter was still waiting at the door. When he saw Ling Han, he stood aside respectfully. "Mr. Ling, according to your instructions, I sent Miss Yi back. No one came to look for her. Can we go now?" Ling Han was about to nod when he suddenly thought of something and glanced at the closed door. "Before you leave, ask her to open the door. Tell her that you have something to do with her." The waiter was slightly stunned, but he didn't ask. He knocked on the door as instructed. The sleeve of the suit was exposed through the crack of the door. Yi Huanyan's hand was hidden in the sleeve. At this time, she was holding the door frame through the sleeve of the suit. She stared at the waiter through the crack of the door. The tears on her face hadn't dried yet. Her voice was a little choked, and her poor English was even more grammatical at the moment. "I'll wash the suit and return it to you. Leave me your number." "Who do you want to return it to?" At the moment Yi Huanyan closed the door, his knee pressed against the door panel. The waiter looked at the strange posture of the two people, suddenly lowered his head, and tactfully turned around to leave. "Open the door before I speak properly." One of Yi Huanyan's eyes was exposed through the crack of the door. "President Ling, I'm not feeling well now. Please let me rest first." "What? Do you feel that you just showed off your skills at the party, and now you want to be alone in the room to reflect on the admiring eyes of those men?" He suddenly exerted his strength, and there was a muffled groan in the room. Ling Han pushed the door open and then closed it. His gaze was slightly lowered. On the carpet, the white dress was wet and bunched up. The woman was lying on the ground, and the black suit on her shoulders was scattered under her body. Her exquisite curves were faintly discernible under a layer of white gauze. There was an irresistible sexiness in her purity. Chapter 110. Yi Huanyan fell to the ground and groaned in pain. She heard the door open behind her. She stiffened and struggled to get up from the ground. Ling Han leaned over and reached out to her. She couldn't tell if he was good or bad from his expressionless face. Get up. Yi Huanyan supported half of her body with one hand on the ground. At this time, seeing Ling Han reach out to her, she was slightly moved. She thought that he turned a blind eye to her by the swimming pool just now because he didn't want to expose their relationship in front of everyone. She felt a little comforted. You lost face in front of so many people. Do you think you're the only one who lost face? This sentence made her raise her hand to stop abruptly and hang by her side. You're still as brainless as before. Ling Han frowned and looked a little disgusted. Seeing that she didn't move, his frown deepened. He picked her up and threw her into the bathroom. With a whoosh, the door of the bathroom was closed, separating the two of them. Even a few mediocre artists can ride on your head. You must be tired of being the chief secretary. A series of sarcasm made Yi Huanyan's body gradually stiffen. She held the glass door of the shower and stood for a long time, looking at the tall figure swaying faintly behind the frosted door of the bathroom. Every word of sarcasm stabbed into her heart, making it bleed until it became numb. After a long time, the figure at the door disappeared. She finally exhaled slowly, turned on the shower head, and poured cold water on her head. She shivered, and her mind was inexplicably clearer. This trip to Bali was expected to be difficult, but now it seemed that it wasn't that bad. She took a quick shower with the cold water. When she turned off the shower, she suddenly realized that she didn't bring any clothes. She looked up at the white towel on the towel rack, frowned, and subconsciously looked in the direction of the bathroom door. Ling Han should have left. She walked out of the bathroom barefoot with a towel wrapped around her hair. As soon as she stepped out of the bathroom door, she saw a figure lying lazily on the sofa with a hotel magazine on his lap. His whole body was leaning against the sofa with his eyes closed and breathing evenly. She stopped and a trace of panic appeared on her face. She subconsciously covered the towel on her chest. It seemed that he was asleep. She breathed a sigh of relief and tiptoed toward the suitcase that was placed beside her bed. She took out her pajamas from her suitcase. Hugging the pajamas, she turned around to take a look. After confirming that Ling Han was sleeping soundly, she hugged the pajamas and tiptoed back to the bathroom. When she closed the door, it inevitably made a sound. She closed her eyes abruptly and quickly locked the door. Ling Han on the sofa slowly opened his eyes, leisurely picked up the magazine on his lap, and walked to the bed. In the bathroom, Yi Huanyan looked at herself in the mirror. The pink silk nightgown accentuated her flawless shoulders. There was a string of white embroidered flowers on the chest, and her cleavage was partly visible. However, the half-sleeved silk nightgown was too wow, so the nightgown wasn't that revealing. What made her embarrassed was that she had actually forgotten to take her underwear in such a hurry after running back and forth. Through the nightgown, she touched her, but felt inexplicably cold. She tiptoed out of the bathroom with her hands on her skirt, but was surprised to find that the man on the sofa was gone. Gone? She stared blankly for a moment before slowly exhaling. Then, she walked towards her bed in a rather relaxed manner. The man who was leaning against the bed was looking at her calmly, as if he was waiting for her. She was suddenly stunned. "You haven't left yet?" Ling Han looked at her from head to toe. His expression was calm, and there was a trace of contempt in the corner of his eyes. "From the looks of it, you don't seem to care much about what happened just now." Yi Huanyan's slightly red eyes showed a trace of panic, and her chest suddenly felt stuffy. She was a person who could let go of many things after crying. No one's life was easy. It seemed that there were always people who wanted to make things difficult for you and trample on you. If you couldn't even live with yourself, then what was the meaning of life? Her self-healing ability was strong, but it didn't mean that the pain in her heart disappeared just like that. The wound was always there. Even if the scar gradually disappeared, when she touched it again, there would still be a conditioned reflex of pain. She stared at Ling Han, and her eyes dimmed bit by bit. "Do you have anything else to say?" Ling Han frowned, and the expression on his face that was sizing her up restrained a little, but it was tinged with a faint anger. "You forgot the agreement with me this morning so quickly." "In the morning?" At the hotel front desk, the agreement about 9:30 in the evening? This is my room. Yi Huanyan's voice was a little muffled, and her fingers that were clenching her coat were slightly trembling. That ridiculous agreement was just a threat that he made alone. What kind of agreement was it? Is that so? Ling Han sat up from the bed, and his large hand covered the bedsheet beside him. He patted it gently. Come here. Yi Huanyan took a step back. President Ling, it's getting late. I asked you to come here. Ling Han's tone was slightly heavy, and Yi Huanyan's whole body trembled. It was obvious that she was afraid of him. Her fingers clutched the corner of her skirt, and she pulled it down with all her might. She was very nervous, and her eyes were red and swollen. It was obvious that she had just cried in the bathroom. Ling Han's tone was a little more relaxed. Rest first. There's still work tomorrow. I hope you can cheer up. After saying this, he got up and walked toward the door. I've already negotiated with the client about the contract renewal. I'll leave tomorrow. There was a hint of stubbornness in her voice behind him. His hand that was holding the door handle paused slightly. He turned his head and stared at the figure coldly. What did you say? I plan to leave tomorrow. I won't be an eyesore here. I hope you have a good time with Miss Shang. Ling Han's face darkened. Did I say you could leave? President Ling, you probably drank too much tonight and forgot some things. For example, the footsteps behind her approached step by step. Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth. On the plane. I really forgot. The sudden pressure on her shoulders made her whole body stiffen, and her whole body fell into a broad chest. She cried out in surprise. Why don't we relive it once? Maybe I'll remember what I said to you on the plane. Her struggling hands were pinned behind her back, and she lost her balance and was violently pushed onto the bed. Her face smashed hard on the sheets, and as she twisted her waist and struggled, a gust of wind lifted the hem of her skirt up to her waist. Her snow-white buttocks were raised high, and they were completely exposed in the air. They were trembling slightly, and they were like two fragrant and soft white steam buns. The swaying round shape in front of him made Ling Han's pupils contract abruptly, and a strange look appeared on his cold face. Yi Huanyan realized something. Shame filled her whole body, and she even forgot to struggle. Yi Huanyan, you did this on purpose. She provoked him to stay, made him see this scene, and made him lose control. Since that's the case, I'll satisfy you. Chapter 111. It was a night of passion without any accident. I changed my mind. He gasped in her ear. Yi Huanyan opened her eyes wide and had no energy to ask him what he had changed his mind about. A certain sensitive area in the lower half of his body was suddenly filled up, and the feeling of swelling filled his entire body. Every cell in his body was jumping excitedly, and the countless nerves in his head collapsed into thin threads, breaking one by one under the violent impact. The pink nightdress straps hung on the wooden post at the end of the bed, shaking wildly. The snow-white body glowed with a pink luster, violently undulating. Outside the window, the waves rose again and again, one wave higher than the other, pounding on the reef with a rough sound. That kind of sound drowned out the creaking sound of the bedboard, the heavy breathing, the screams or moans of pain or pleasure. The man was tireless, venting his terrible desire. The woman found a trace of shameful pleasure from the pain. Her lips, which she bit hard, finally loosened and made various sounds. At the door of a room, high-heeled shoes, studded with rhinestones, stepped on the red carpet. The black evening dress set off the woman's skin as white as jade. Listening to the faint sound from the room, the red lips on the face trembled slightly. Shang Anren's face was gloomy to the extreme. She always thought that Ling Han just had some special hobbies, such as cleanliness, so he never touched her body. Or perhaps it could be said that he was frigid and only liked to admire instead of personally experiencing it. That was why he let her take off her clothes on the bed that night. No matter how hard she tried to be flirtatious on the bed, he just sat on the sofa in the distance and admired quietly. His expression was indifferent and without any ripples. At this moment, the sound from this room undoubtedly gave her a slap in the face. What ability did Yi Huanyan have to let Ling Han sleep with her regardless of the occasion? It was the same on the plane and at the party. Pretending to be pure? His usual old-fashioned and solemn appearance? Or the first time to Ling Han? Maybe all men have a virgin complex? She gritted her teeth. No matter what, Ling Han was the man she saw first, and she tried her best to get him. If others dared to block her way to enter the Ling family and become Mrs. Ling, there was only one way to die. Deep into the night, the room was filled with boundless spring light. The atmosphere had reached its climax. A hint of urgency appeared on the man's face. Then he let out a muffled groan and slowly exhaled. He turned over and got off the bed, putting on his pants without the slightest reluctance. You're not allowed to go anywhere. Stay here for the next few days. After saying this, he left without looking back. Yi Huanyan pulled the crumpled bedsheet from the side and hugged it tightly in her arms. Her body trembled slightly. After the passion, the pleasure disappeared, leaving behind only exhaustion and shame. His attitude towards her was as if he had a mistress who could not see the light of day, or perhaps even worse. She didn't know how much time had passed when she felt a throbbing pain in her temples. It was as if there was a drumstick pounding, making a deafening sound. After a long time, she realized that someone was ringing the doorbell. It was already so late. Who else could it be? She hurriedly sat up and held onto the pillar by the head of the bed. She casually grabbed a bathrobe and tied it around her body before she staggered toward the door. As soon as he opened the door, a basin of cold water poured down his head, drenching his entire body. I didn't have time to see who it was. A gust of wind blew in his ears. Pa! A crisp sound resounded throughout the entire corridor. There was a burning pain in her right cheek. She covered her cheek in disbelief and raised her head. She looked at the person in front of her with blurred vision. Led by Sheng Anren, followed by the 3 artists who had set a trap for her at the party. One of them held a water basin in his hand and hid behind Sheng Anren with his face covered. Shameless. Sheng Anren's eyes were vicious. He stared at her angrily, as if he wanted to tear her apart. Are you crazy? Who's crazy? Am I wrong to say that you're shameless? Is it the temptation to get wet at the party? Don't tell me that Han just discussed work with you in your room. Secretary Yi, who usually looks serious, seduced her boss at night? Isn't it cheap? Yi Huanyan's face was stiff, and he had nothing to say for a while. You didn't listen to me when I warned you. This slap is light. Seeing that the second slap was about to fall, Yi Huanyan raised his hand and held her wrist. That's enough. Her eyes were cold. She made up her mind and said fiercely, since you know what I just did with Ling Han in the room, how dare you treat me like this? With the status of the 3 of you? Aren't you afraid that President Ling will settle accounts with you? The 3 artists behind Sheng Anren lowered their heads and didn't dare to look at Yi Huanyan. It's not that they don't understand this, but they follow Sheng Anren on the pirate ship and can't get down. Get out of here. She spat out a word and glanced at the 3 people coldly. The 3 people looked at each other and ran faster than mice. Sister Anren, we've done what you asked us to do. We'll go first. For a moment, the corridor was quiet again. Sheng Anren looked around and sneered. You have the ability. What? Do you think it's safe in this way? Are you afraid that we will bully you with more people? The party was about to end. Hearing the sound of people coming from the direction of the elevator, Yi Huanyan frowned, pulled Sheng Anren's arm, and dragged her directly into the room. What do you want to do? Sheng Anren was tripped and fell on the sofa. Her face darkened and she was a little flustered. Bang! A sound was heard. Yi Huanyan closed the door and looked back to see Sheng Anren with a panicked face. She sneered, You're afraid, Miss Sheng. Didn't you come to me? She looked down at her wet clothes. Isn't this your masterpiece? You deserve it. Who told you to steal other people's men? Sheng Anren gritted her teeth and stared at Yi Huanyan. Don't you know that being a mistress is shameful? No one will sympathize with you if you tell others about your behavior. Mistress? Yi Huanyan wiped her face and tucked her wet hair behind her ears. She grabbed a towel on the shelf and wiped her face, saying coldly, "You might as well say this to yourself. I've known Ling Han for 10 years. Who's the mistress?" Sheng Anren looked stiff. 10 years? Yi Huanyan's face was gloomy. Her feelings of 10 years were said to be a mistress by the woman who had just climbed Ling Han for less than a year. She was full of resentment. Who could she reason with? Was it really like what Ling Han said? Now even an artist from the company could ride on her head? 10 years ago, you hadn't debuted yet. Sheng Anren, don't take yourself too seriously. Unless you really become Mrs. Ling one day, don't show off in front of me. I, Yi Huanyan, am not afraid of others' threats. Her voice was never so cold. Even she didn't believe that she would say such a thing. After Sheng Anren left, she sat by the bed to tidy up her clothes. After tidying up for a while, she thought of her powerful words just now. She laughed at herself and looked at the door. Ling Han said that she had no brain, no ability, and no temper. Then she vented her temper on his favorite woman. Anyway, she was going to leave. Why should she bear this kind of vexation? Chapter 112. In the early morning, the roar of the plane sounded over the Bali airport. Yi Huanyan leaned back in her seat and fell asleep as if a 1,000-pound boulder had fallen off her heart. Early the next morning, Ling Han walked out of the room in a white nightgown and full spirit. In the dining room of the suite, there were all kinds of dishes prepared by Sheng Anren. When she saw him coming out, she went up to him with a smile. "Wake up, have breakfast. You went to bed so early yesterday. I brought you something to eat when I came back. I didn't disturb you when I saw you sleeping. I'm a little hungry." Ling Han was in a good mood. He picked up the toast slice and took a bite and walked toward the French window in the living room. Sheng Anren stood at the dining table, looking at his back thoughtfully, and glanced at the dining table. "Han, the front desk sent a note in the morning. I don't know who wrote it. Note." Ling Han swallowed the bread and turned around. Sheng Anren picked up the white note under the plate from the dining table and walked up to him, twisting her waist. "Here." The familiar graceful handwriting made Ling Han's eyes suddenly become cold. "As you wish, I'll go first. I wish you a pleasant vacation." He asked coldly, "When did it come?" Sheng Anren hesitated for a moment, as if she was thinking about half an hour ago when breakfast was just delivered. "Hey, Han, where are you going?" Looking at the back of Ling Han, who disappeared at the door in a bathrobe, Sheng Anren leaned against the windowsill, revealing a secret sneer. Of course, she had read the content of the note. Even if Ling Han chased after him now, she was afraid that he would not be able to catch the plane. Yi Huanyan was really unpredictable. Last night, she was so aggressive to her that she thought she had met a well-matched opponent. In the end, the woman told her that she had no intention of competing with her, and packed up her things and left the hotel in front of her. A gesture of goodwill? Sheng Anren sneered. She was sensible. The front desk checked out Yi Huanyan's checkout record at 1 o'clock in the morning. Ling Han returned to his room with a cold expression. His expression was extremely ugly. Sheng Anren looked as if she didn't understand what had happened. She went up to him in surprise and pouted. "Han, what's wrong? Where did he go? Why do you look so pale?" Ling Han supported himself with a chair and sat down. He stared at the food on the table and instantly lost his appetite. "How long do you plan to stay here this time?" "About 10 days. Ling Han frowned. Why did it take so long? Thinking of this, he thought of the woman who had run away at the last minute, and his eyes were filled with anger. Who gave her the guts to let her leave without his permission? "It's cold. The weather is so good outside. Let's go swimming." Sheng Anren's coquettish voice sounded beside him, and her chest was almost pressed against his face. He turned his head in disgust. "Go by yourself. The sun is too strong." Through the window, Sheng Anren looked at the seaside and rolled her eyes. I see that Manager Li and the others are all at the seaside. It seems that they are having a good time with several artists of our company. Han, are you really not going to take a look? Didn't you say last time that you still have a contract to discuss with Manager Li? Ling Han's face showed a trace of relaxation. After a few seconds, he stood up. Let's go. This Manager Li was the representative of the circle who was not close to women. This was a rare opportunity. He went back to his room and changed into light seaside casual clothes. Looking at himself in the mirror, he slowly exhaled. Without Yi Huanyan, this trip had a greater meaning. The plane was delayed. When Yi Huanyan arrived at the airport of Lanjiang City, it was already late at night in Lanjiang City. She was dressed simply and waited for her luggage at the luggage carousel. It was 12 o'clock at night. There were not many people at the luggage carousel. Yi Huanyan looked around. Suddenly, there was a bustling crowd in the distance. It was a little noisy. She frowned and looked toward the source of the sound. 7 or 8 girls were surrounding someone and walking towards the luggage carousel next to her. The man in the middle was wearing a cap and a mask. He was being protected by the security guards and looked like he was having a hard time moving. However, he didn't show any impatience as he tried to persuade them. Well, let's wait for my luggage at the luggage carousel. I'll take a photo with you, okay? Sun Yanhua spread out his hands. If you stop me like this, I won't have time to rest when I go back tonight. I have a job tomorrow. Embarrassed, the girls made way for him and apologized profusely, calling him Brother Yunyan. Fortunately, there were few people at the airport. If the number of fans was large, it would be useless to say anything. Yi Huanyan admired these little sisters who squatted at the airport all night. Where did they know Sun Yanhua's itinerary? Or were they squatting here every day? Sun Yanhua squeezed out of the crowd. Before he reached the luggage carousel, he saw a familiar figure 5 or 6 meters away. She was looking at him with a faint smile on her face. She seemed to be stunned for a moment and forgot to avoid him. Then, she looked at him gently and smiled. His heart moved and he almost couldn't control himself and rushed over. Brother Hua, can you give me an autograph first? The voice beside him reminded him that they were in a public place. He suddenly came back to his senses. He smiled and took the notebook from a fan's hand. With a wave of his hand, a gorgeous signature appeared on the paper. Fate was so coincidental that his luggage carousel was next to Yi Huanyan's. Perhaps it was this coincidence at the airport that made him sure of his feelings for Yi Huanyan. She said that obsession and guilt had troubled him for 10 years. Then, after letting go of the guilt and obsession, he peeled open his heart layer by layer and found that there was still love, and it wasn't just a little bit. The woman in front of him was not far away from him. She was wearing white sneakers, blue jeans, and a khaki-colored button-down coat. He could not tell that she was a mature woman who had been working for a long time. Whether it was the refreshing ponytail on her head, her clean face without makeup, or even the panicked look on her face when she saw that there were so many fans, all of it made him feel moved. His original heart was her, and his heart was also her. Now his heart was full of love, and it was all for her. Yi Huanyan's luggage arrived early. She waved her hand at him from afar, indicating that she wanted to leave first. A trace of disappointment flashed in his eyes, but the crowd gradually surrounded him. There was nothing he could do. Li Dali saw all of this and blocked Sun Yanhua's personal security with a few words. Then he quietly appeared at the airport entrance and blocked Yi Huanyan's way. Miss Yi, it's too late now. It's not convenient to take a taxi. Why don't I give you a ride? Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She looked at the nanny van not far away and hesitated. It was so late. She wouldn't be targeted by fans, right? Moreover, there were no cars at the airport at this time. The subway had stopped running. On a rainy day, there were very few taxis. Just now, she heard a car call a few people from different directions to carpool. At this time, people from different places had to carpool. How long would it take to go home? Chapter 113. Sun Yanhua took his luggage and left the airport with the security guard. Behind him, 7 or 8 fans chased after him. They chased him all the way to the minivan. If the bodyguard didn't stop them, Sun Yanhua even suspected that they would climb to the roof of the minivan. He got into the van and let out a long sigh of relief. Broly, why did you leave first? Oh, yeah, I just saw Yan Yan. I saw her too. Li Dali turned around from the front passenger seat, but his gaze went over his shoulder and landed on the curtain behind him. Slender fingers pulled open the beige curtain with a whoosh sound. A delicate and sweet face appeared from a pile of clothes. She took a deep breath and exclaimed, I'm suffocating. Yan Yan? Sun Yanhua opened his eyes wide. Why are you so surprised? Yi Huanyan's lips curled up slightly as she exchanged a smile with Li Dali. Broly saw that I couldn't find a taxi, so he gave me a ride. You don't mind, right? Of course I don't mind. Sun Yanhua was so happy that he was incoherent. Why are you at the airport? Where did you come from? I wanted to ask you, but there were too many people, and I didn't want to cause you trouble. Yi Huanyan looked indifferent. She changed her direction and sat in the chair opposite to Sun Yanhua. The company organized a trip to Bali. I came back early because I had something to do. Bali? That's a good place. Did you have fun? It's okay. Yi Huanyan looked reluctant. Sun Yanhua was slightly stunned. From her forced smile, he saw a trace of sadness. He guessed that this trip was probably not going to be so smooth. He thought for a while and looked up. Yan Yan, I brought you a gift from France this time. Broly, where's the gift bag? I bought it in Paris yesterday. A faint sigh came from the front passenger seat. Bro Hua, you said there were more than a dozen gift bags of different sizes. They filled a box and were sent directly from France. How could it arrive so quickly? And how would I know which one you're talking about? The pink one. Oh, perfume. Li Dali rummaged through his backpack and took out a pink square box and placed it in the back seat. It's here. This thing is small. I put it in your bag. I tried this perfume in the shop, and it tastes pretty good. That's why I bought it for you. When the pink box was handed to Yi Huanyan, she was slightly stunned. Her gaze was focused on the white furry ball on the box. It's so cute. This, opening the box, there was a transparent pink bottle of perfume in the shape of a water droplet, with a string of French words written on it. Try it. He smiled. I think it suits you. It's quite expensive, isn't it? I'm sorry for making you spend so much money. Do you want me to give you the money? Are you planning to treat me as a purchasing agent? Sun Yanhua's eyes were filled with resentment. Li Dali's laughter came from the front passenger seat. Miss Yi, you don't have to be so polite. Brother Hua's money is enough for you to soak in the perfume bathtub every day. You don't have to be so polite with him. This kind of nouveau riche description made Yi Huanyan burst out laughing. Soak in the bathtub and take a perfume bath? Who was going to suffocate? Then I won't be polite with you. Next time, I'll treat you to a meal. Yi Huanyan tilted her head and revealed a sly smile. Sure enough, girls have no immunity to anything cute. Sun Yanhua looked at her smiling face as she fiddled with the perfume, and a gentle look appeared in the corner of his eyes. After chatting for a while, when the car drove into Jinjiang Park, Yi Huanyan realized that she forgot to tell Li Dali where she lived. He naturally drove to Jinjiang Park. She raised her wrist and glanced at it. It was already 2:00 in the morning. She was too embarrassed to ask them to give her a ride. Thinking that Ling Han was still in Bali, it wasn't a big deal for her to stay here for one night, so she got out of the car. Sun Yanhua stood in front of the car door with a gentle look on his face. When my tour ends this year, let's have a good gathering with my former classmates. If they see you, they will be very surprised. Yi Huanyan looked at him with a smile. After all, how many people's classmates would become such a famous singer? Brother Hua, get in the car and leave. You still have to catch a flight to Xicheng tomorrow morning. Li Dali urged in the car and did not forget to look at Yi Huanyan apologetically. Miss Yi, please persuade him. He has been working nonstop for so long. It's rare for him to have some time to rest. He should take a good rest. I'm not tired. Sun Yanhua seemed to dislike Li Dali's meddling. Fine, I said too much. Li Dali tilted his head and looked at Yi Huanyan. If you're not tired, why don't you ask Miss Yi if she's tired? It's an 8-hour drive from Bali to Lanjiang. I heard that it rained later today. Your body can't take it. It was this that made Sun Yanhua stop and get in the car. Yi Huanyan carried the pink perfume box and pulled the suitcase to Ling Han's apartment. The password was the same as before, and it opened with a simple press. She fumbled around in the kitchen to boil water. In the dark, she heard a frightened scream. Who is it? Yi Huanyan froze. If it wasn't for the familiar voice, she would have dropped the cup. It's me. Ling Ling was a light sleeper and had a habit of waking up in the middle of the night. When she heard the noise, she came out. Oh, Miss Yi, why didn't you turn on the lights? You scared me. I thought it was a thief. Where's the young master? Did he come back together? Ling Ling fumbled around and turned on the lights. She looked around but didn't see Ling Han. Yi Huanyan took a tissue and wiped the water stains on the marble countertop. She was a little absent-minded. Ling Ling, I have some special circumstances, so I'm staying here for a night. Can you not tell Ling Han that I stayed here? The young master didn't come back? Yeah, he didn't come back. He'll probably stay in Bali for about 10 days. But don't worry, I'm only staying here for one night. I'll leave tomorrow morning. The driver who sent me back drove the wrong way. Ling Ling sighed in relief. No wonder. Missy has been here for so long. She must be not used to moving so suddenly. She probably gave the wrong address when she came back from the airport. Yeah, I guess so. Yi Huanyan looked a little embarrassed. Then you can stay here. I won't say anything. Ling Ling's eyes were full of sincerity. It's all thanks to you that I was able to stay here. Thank you. Miss Yi, do you want to eat anything? I'll make you supper. No, no, no. You're welcome. I'm not being polite. It's what I should do. Yi Huanyan couldn't persuade Ling Ling in the end. She sat on the sofa and looked at the busy figure in the kitchen with a coat on. She felt warm in her heart. The kindness of strangers could always quickly heal people's hearts. It was like feeling that the world was warm and reliable because you didn't expect much from them. As for those relatives who had been with you for 10 or 20 years, because you loved them and had done so much for them, you had too many expectations from them. That was why they could always bring you disappointment in the world. No matter what, tonight was a warm night. Chapter 114. On the afternoon of Yi Huanyan's departure by flight, holiday in Bali, Sheng Enren, wearing a black bikini with a white lace hollowed-out smock, attracted the eyes of countless men and women on the beach. She was born as a print model. Although her height of 1.75 meters was not as high as those runway models, who were easily more than 1.8 meters, her figure was known as a 9-headed beauty in the modeling industry, which was extremely close to the golden ratio. At this time, 2 slender long legs passed gracefully in the waves, and the 36D chest surged with a little movement. Cold the sea is a little cold. She shouted sweetly into the distance. This shout made the hearts of the people on the beach melt. 5 or 6 meters away from Shang'anren, Ling Han was wearing a colorful floral underwear and standing on the beach with his upper body naked. He glanced in the direction of Shang'anren with a dispirited expression. The waves were rolling, and a wave came over. There was a woman's scream and play on the beach, which was very pleasant, especially Shang'anren. The sea water wet her smock, and her perfect figure was looming under the smock, which was a little more sexy than not wearing clothes. The men on the beach were all staring. Cold, the sea is so cold. Sheng Enren trotted to Ling Han's side and took his arm. She raised her head and showed him a warm smile. Her round chest rubbed against his arm so much that it felt elastic just by looking at it. It was obvious that the famous flower had a master. The envious men had to take back their naked eyes, but they did not forget to look at it secretly. Ling Han turned a blind eye to her attentions and looked up at the other side of the sea with a cold look. Since it's too cold, go back to the hotel. I don't mean that. Sheng Enren thought that her nagging made Ling Han dissatisfied, so she quickly changed her words. Do you want to stay here? Ling Han pulled out his arm, and a trace of disgust flashed in his eyes. I'm tired. I'll go back to have a rest. Looking at the figure of Ling Han, Sheng Enren frowned slightly. She didn't know what she had done to make him unhappy. In addition to being annoyed, she caught a glimpse of another beach. Mr. Li was lying under a parasol and enjoying the sea breeze. Zhao Bingqing was lying on her side and was diligently handing juice to Mr. Li. This girl was originally just used as a gun, but she didn't expect to meet Mr. Li's appetite. She was quite capable. If I can get the contract from Mr. Li, Ling Han's attitude towards me will change. Sheng Enren's mouth raised a meaningful arc. If you want to keep a man's heart, you have to help him get what he wants most and become the most valuable person around him. Compared with any feelings, Ling Han is a man who puts his career first. So only if you have an indispensable role in his career can you stay with him for a long time. This is the reality. In the evening, Sheng Enren returned to the suite with a red face and a little smell of alcohol. She held a contract in her hand and stared at the door of Ling Han's room for a long time. She bit her lips and a charm flashed in her eyes. Just as she was about to knock on the door, she suddenly thought of something. She glanced at the contract in her hand, and the corner of her eyes raised a successful arc. She turned into the bathroom of her bedroom. She was wearing a wine-red suspender nightdress with black lace on the side, revealing her smooth and flawless thighs. Her skin was tight and elastic. She looked at herself in the mirror and was very satisfied with her state today. She didn't believe that she couldn't get Ling Han tonight. Talk, talk, talk. Han, I have a surprise for you. Han, if you don't speak, I'll go in. Do you know it was not easy for me to get the contract from Mr. Li for you? Turning the door, Sheng Enren's voice stopped abruptly. There was no one in the room, and the suitcase in the corner disappeared. All this silently showed that he had left. 10 minutes later, Rui Shui and Lin Jie hurried in together, looking nervous. Sister Enren, the front desk said that Mr. Ling left 2 hours ago. He didn't check out the room, but he left a note for you at the front desk. What note? Give it to me. Sheng Enren's face flashed a strange light. When she saw that the suitcase was gone, she knew that Ling Han had left. It was not the first time that he had disappeared from her side silently. She had gradually gotten used to it. Although she was not reconciled, she had to admit that she was just like what Yi Huanyan had said. In his heart, she was just a flower vase and did not have much weight. At this moment, when she heard that Ling Han had left a message for her, she suddenly felt a glimmer of hope. This was something that had never happened before. Rui Shui handed over a white note, her fingertips trembling, and her face was nervous, as if she was afraid that Sheng Enren would be angry at the moment. The black handwriting on the note was strong and powerful, and at the end was his signature. Enren, please tell the company's staff that the company is busy, so I need to go back to deal with it in advance. It's a rare holiday. I hope you have a good time, Ling Han. In addition to the last 2 words of the signature were written by Ling Han. The first line of words was upright, but there was no natural and unrestrained style. It was obvious that someone had written it for him. And from the respectful and polite tone, there was no need to think about it to know that the company had temporarily sent an assistant to Ling Han. Sister Enren, Mr. Ling, what did he say? Rui Shui asked carefully. The note was clenched in Sheng Enren's palm, and her nails were embedded in the flesh. But on the surface, she glanced at the 2 people in front of her and smiled slightly. Her voice was sweet and flawless. Nothing. Mr. Ling had to go back temporarily. He asked me to entertain the company's customers and artists for him. Lin Jie was not a person who could read the mood. She frowned and asked, go back temporarily? Secretary, he just left in the morning, and Mr. Ling left. Is it? Sheng Enren's face suddenly sank. Rui Shui hurriedly pulled Lin Jie's arm and blinked at her desperately. You go out first. I don't want a fourth person to know that Mr. Ling has left for the time being. Sheng Enren suppressed her anger, but her voice trembled a little. Her position and identity were all supported by Ling Han. If these people knew that Ling Han had left her alone and returned home early, then everything before would become a laughing stock. Lin Jie seemed to want to say something, but she was pulled out by Rui Shui and closed the door. You're crazy. You didn't see Sheng Enren's face. What else do you want to say? I just want to remind Sister Enren that Secretary Yi and Mr. Ling may be. Do you think Sheng Enren can't see the things that you can see? Rui Shui mercilessly interrupted Lin Jie's words. At the same time, there was a sudden clanging sound in the room, and even the door shook twice. No one knew what hit it. The two people in the corridor froze. Rui Shui rolled her eyes at Lin Jie and strode toward her room without looking back. Sooner or later, I'll be dragged to death by you. Hey, Xiao Shui, wait for me. I didn't mean it. Chapter 115. Lanjiang City, Jinjiang Park Villa District. A black business car slowly drove in from the entrance of the residential area and finally stopped in front of the courtyard of the three-story villa. A man in a suit who looked like an assistant opened the car door. His slender legs stepped out of the car door, and his shiny leather shoes raised a trace of dust on the ground. You go back to the company first. Don't tell anyone that I'm back. Yes, Mr. Ling. Ling Ling was having breakfast in the living room. Because Yi Huanyan came back in the early hours of the night before, she deliberately arranged breakfast after 9 o'clock. Before setting the table, she knocked on Yi Huanyan's door. Ling Han entered the password and directly opened the door. When he was changing his shoes at the entrance, he saw Ling Ling's surprised expression. Young master, you should be in Bali, right? Ling Han changed his shoes, threw his coat on the sofa, and loosened the tie around his neck. Something came up, so I came back early. His eyes caught sight of the breakfast on the table, and his expression slightly froze. At this moment, the door of the bedroom on the first floor, facing his direction, suddenly opened. Yi Huanyan stood at the door in pink bear pajamas, with a toothbrush in her mouth, and asked vaguely with her eyes closed. Ling Ling, why isn't the water coming out of the bathroom? Ling Ling was stunned in the living room. Her eyes stiffly moved from Ling Han to Yi Huanyan. Ling Ling? Hearing no response, Yi Huanyan opened her eyes in a daze. At this moment, a tall figure quickly came into view and was looking at her with a gloomy face. Bam! The pink toothbrush fell on the floor and the toothpaste foam splashed all over the floor. You're not. Aren't you supposed to be in Bali? She asked the same question in her heart as Ling Ling, but Ling Han did not answer. The door was closed with a bang. Ling Han stood behind the door with a gloomy face. Without any explanation, he locked both of them in the room and isolated them from the outside world. Yi Huanyan staggered and fell onto the bed less than a meter away from the door. Her whole body stiffened. I should be the one asking you that. Yi Huanyan, shouldn't you give me an explanation? Who asked you to come back from Bali? And why are you here? He stood at the door and did not approach, but his expression was terrifyingly dark. Yi Huanyan shrunk her shoulders, feeling guilty and panicked. I came back too late last night. My flight was delayed and I gave the wrong address at the airport. Ha! A cold laugh sounded in the room. Gave the wrong address? How accustomed are you to living here? I'm leaving now. She raised her head, looked around, and hurriedly crouched down to pack the suitcase at the end of the bed. Just in time. Once you're done, you can move to your original room on the second floor. A cold voice sounded behind her, which made Yi Huanyan think it was an illusion. She turned around in a daze and couldn't believe it. You mean I don't have to move? Are you happy? Ling Han's lips curled into a smile. He bent his index finger and gently lifted her chin. This is your reward for flying back from Bali early. Yi Huanyan's eyes flashed with a trace of hesitation. My luggage over there. Before you move in, I'll get someone to move it out for you. Yi Huanyan abruptly looked into his eyes. His eyes were filled with mockery and ridicule towards her. In a moment of desperation, she forgot her own situation and blurted out in a loud voice. You want her to move in with us? Ling Han's eyes suddenly darkened. Our house? Yi Huanyan's eyes froze. She knew she had said something wrong. A layer of fear gradually appeared on her face. Who gave you the courage to say these 3 words? That's the property of the Ling family. It has nothing to do with you. Remember, Yi Huanyan, I don't only want Sheng Anren to move in. I'll also make her the new owner of that house. I beg you don't. She bit her lip. Her heart suddenly contracted, making her feel a sharp pain in her chest. That was the only place where she had good memories with him. That was the only place where she could truly remember how she had integrated into the Ling family and even the life of the man in front of her in the past 10 years. Now you know how to beg me? Ling Han shook off her chin in disgust and looked down at the woman kneeling on the ground with no dignity. When I advised you not to leave Bali, why didn't you think about the consequences of disobeying me? This is a small punishment for you. You said that as long as I was willing to give up the job of pleasure, you could let me go. I'm willing now. I beg you, don't let Sheng Anren move in. It's too late. I also told you to go back home immediately after getting off the plane, but you didn't do it. There was no sympathy in Ling Han's eyes. He opened the door and left a sentence indifferently. Remember, don't go against my words in the future. You think you're not afraid of anything, but in fact, you can lose a lot of things, and it's easy for me to make you lose them. You're so cruel. Her choked voice came from behind. She had always had expectations for him. Even at this moment, she still hoped that he would change his mind. But only his cold voice came from the door. Only a cruel person can live a good life. Didn't Jiang Milan teach you that? No one could change his decision. Yi Huanyan looked at the pink toothbrush lying on the ground at the door and the traces of white toothpaste foam that had dried up beside it. Her eyes were filled with sadness. It was natural for the son to repay the father's debt, and the daughter to repay the mother's debt. Ling Han ignored Ling Ling's question of whether he wanted to eat breakfast. He went straight upstairs and locked himself in the study. On his phone was a text message from Sheng Anren when he just got off the plane. Han, I've done what I promised you. What about what you promised me? I hope you can give me a surprise when I go back. The phone dialed number. His voice was calm and emotionless. After the call was connected, a delicate voice came from the other end of the phone. Han, did you get off the plane? You left without saying anything. I even took the contract back to the hotel to look for you, to give you a surprise. Did you get the contract? Of course, for you, I can do anything. Thank you, Anren. Ling Han's voice was gentler. Then, what about what you promised me? Sheng Anren's voice was a little coquettish. And you left me alone in Bali and just went back like this. Aren't you going to compensate me? Ling Han's eyes were covered with a thin layer of frost. Although it was sweet and coquettish, there was no lack of threat in it. He couldn't guarantee that if he didn't agree with her, what kind of reason would she use to send this contract to him in the next second? Sheng Anren had never been the kind of woman with big breasts and no brain. She could sit in the position of movie queen today. In addition to her beauty, her intelligence was also incomparable to ordinary people. Therefore, she could stay with him for so long. Whether it was the profit that pleasure could transfer from her every year, it was also the cooperation opportunities that she could help him win. When I come back, I'll send someone to help you move your things to Fujin Court. Fujin Court? Don't you live in Jinjiang Court? A puzzled voice came from the other end of the phone. Fujin Court is where my parents and I used to live. What, you don't want to? No. I want to. The ecstasy on the other end of the phone seemed to jump out. Chapter 116. Before going to Bali, Sheng Anren vaguely suspected the relationship between Yi Huanyan and Ling Han. There were women's belongings in Ling Han's house, and they were very expensive. They definitely did not belong to the servant who looked like a country bumpkin. Excluding Ji Xiaoya, who was rumored to have an affair with Ling Han but had resigned in the personnel record, there was only Yi Huanyan, whom she saw with her own eyes walking out of Ling Han's villa in the middle of the night. Although Qiao Mu did not confess, her woman's intuition told her that Yi Huanyan was definitely the woman who lived with Ling Han. And if she wanted to be promoted, the first step was to push this woman away, starting from living together, and then find a way to become Mrs. Ling. So she offered to help Ling Han negotiate the contract with President Li, and the condition was that she wanted to move into the villa in Jinjiang Court and live with him after the deal was done. However, Ling Han gave her a better choice that she could not refuse. As Ling Han said, the house in Fujing Court was where Ling Han's parents lived. So the person who lived there was naturally a very important person in the Ling family, which was equivalent to admitting her identity as the hostess in a disguised way. Even if Yi Huanyan still lived in Jinjiang Court, so what? The person who could live in the most meaningful house in the Ling family was the future Mrs. Ling Han. Thank you. I'm so happy. The sweet voice coming from the phone could almost make most men in the world feel a sense of achievement. But Ling Han frowned. It's nothing. You deserve it. Pleasure was his world. It was easy to fight for power, but difficult to keep it. What he was facing now was the problem of the board of directors abusing power. Although it was not serious, he had to be prepared in advance. He did not care how much gossip he had. Most of those women were female artists in the company. If there was news, there would be exposure. And if there was exposure, he could successfully make them popular. At worst, he could clear their names later. As long as there were these popular artists, Pleasure's annual income was enough to shut the mouths of those people on the board of directors. After Ling Dongming left, he truly felt the pressure of managing a large company. This was also the reason why he couldn't blame his father, even though he knew that it wasn't his fault for cheating. He had already endured enough pressure, so there was nothing to be sorry about. Everyone had their own selfish desires. Ling Dongming's selfish desires were lust that couldn't be rationally controlled, while Ling Han's selfish desires were hatred that couldn't be rationally controlled. He went downstairs from the study. The food on the dining table was untouched. Yi Huanyan's door was closed. Ling Han glanced at Ling Ling. She understood and carefully explained. Missy didn't come out. I knocked on the door, but didn't hear any response. Maybe she came back too late last night and went to sleep again. Ling Han frowned as he looked at Yi Huanyan's door. He strode over, raised his hand, and knocked twice. Yi Huanyan, I'll give you 10 minutes. Come out and eat. There was no response from inside the room. Ling Han pushed open the door. On the beige bed, a thin and weak body was curled up under the blanket. Her back was facing him, and her posture was stiff. It was obvious that she wasn't asleep at all. Ling Han's brows were tinged with coldness. He turned around, picked up the tray, and strode in. When I'm talking to you properly, do as I say. I'm not eating. Yi Huanyan still maintained her posture with her back to him. Her voice was muffled, and she had a rebellious attitude. Ling Han's eyes turned cold. Get up. I said I'm not eating. She gritted her teeth, pulled the blanket over her head, and looked like she was going to fight to the end. Ling Han didn't have much patience to begin with. When he saw this, he put the tray on the cabinet beside him, violently pulled the blanket away, and directly lifted her up. He wrapped one hand around her shoulder, grabbed the back of her neck, and stuffed a piece of toast into her mouth with the other hand. At first, she was still struggling. Perhaps it was because of the overnight flight and the shock. Just now, her body gradually couldn't take it anymore. The moment he pinched her chin, her teeth loosened, and a piece of toast was violently stuffed into her mouth. She was choked and felt uncomfortable. She covered her chest, and her face turned red. Then she directly drank half a cup of milk, and only then did it ease the toast in her throat. The bed was a mess. There were breadcrumbs and milk stains. It was like the scene of an insensible child after a big fight. Halfway through the milk, She probably choked. She covered her chest and coughed violently. Ling Han felt suffocated. He shook her body off and put down the cup of milk heavily. His face was extremely dark. You're protesting by going on a hunger strike. Who are you trying to threaten? Every cent you used was given to you by the Ling family. What right do you have to talk to me about that house? Yi Huanyan raised her head with tears in her eyes. She saw the figure standing by the bed. His expensive suit was a mess. She pursed her lips, and for a moment, she was speechless. She was just living under someone else's roof. What right did she have to be picky? She slowly moved to the side of the bed, picked up the plate, and put the fried egg into her mouth with a fork. She ate the fruit and drank the milk on the side. She lowered her head the whole time, holding back her tears, and stuffed her cheeks until they were bulging. Ling Han's voice returned to normal, and there was a trace of unwillingness in his eyes. When he left a sentence. Clean yourself up after you're done eating. The moment he walked out of the room, Ling Han felt very stuffy in his chest. Yi Huanyan was a person with sharp edges. She had a personality like a wildcat, and she was too stubborn. He hadn't seen her fight with anyone for a long time. Although the words, "I don't," made him angry, it made him miss it even more. Many years ago, she also shouted at Jiang Milin at home like this, "I don't want to learn the violin." Or, "What's the point of playing the piano? I don't want it." Or, "I want that album. If you don't buy it, I'll go on a hunger strike." Or, "Brother Ling Han, what's your relationship with that woman? I don't like her. I don't" used to be her synonym. She had a lot of resistance in her heart. Not long after she came to the Ling family, she ushered in the rebellious period. He, who had been respectful to his parents since he was young, had never experienced such resistance. He had never had the chance to say, "I don't." After Yi Huanyan finished eating, Ling Ling went into the room to clean up the mess. When she saw the mess on the bed, she couldn't help but sigh. She was obviously young, but she used an experienced tone to comfort Yi Huanyan. "Miss Yi, don't be stubborn with young master. Young master's temper has always been firm. He can be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. Why do you have to be like this?" Yi Huanyan was a little numb to these words. She had comforted herself like this before, but the more she comforted herself, the more it seemed that it was natural for her to endure. She had forgotten that she was once an arrogant young lady. "Where is he?" Young master just went out directly." "Do you need me to call and ask where he went?" "There's no need. It was good that he went out." After a short handshake, it was indeed stormy again. The room on the second floor was where her nightmare began. Now that she was going back to the starting point, she had to adapt to it before he came back. Chapter 117. In the Ling family villa in Fujin Park, a silver-gray sports car was parked in the courtyard. It was obvious that it had just stopped not long ago. It left fresh car tracks in the courtyard after the rain. Inside the house, a pair of well-defined hands opened the drawer at the entrance and put a bunch of keys into the pocket of his coat. Then, he walked up to the second floor. After that, the door of a secondary bedroom on the second floor facing the sun opened. The tall figure stopped at the door for a while before pulling the door and locking it. With a click, it was as if a long memory had been turned off. After walking around, his hands were covered in dust. He washed his face in the bathroom on the second floor and looked at himself in the mirror. He turned around and looked at the toilet behind him. He suddenly recalled the first time he spent the night in this house, after Yi Huanyan entered this house. Although the house was big, there was no bathroom in his and Yi Huanyan's rooms. There was a bathroom in the middle of the two bedrooms in the corner. It was the closest bathroom between the two rooms. It was raining that day. After discussing company matters with Ling Dongming, Jiang Milin asked him to stay here. At that time, Yi Huanyan had to go to cram school because of the final exam and came back late. After going upstairs to unpack her school bag, she opened the bathroom door and their eyes met. Ling Han sat on the toilet with a stiff expression. Ordinary girls would either run away or cover their faces and scream. Only Yi Huanyan was not an ordinary person. She actually entered the bathroom openly and took the facial cleanser on the shelf. Her tone was very stiff. I'll take something. You continue. The moment the door closed, Ling Han could not help but laugh. In order to hide the awkwardness in her heart, she could actually brace herself and pretend to be calm to such an extent. Just as Ling Dongming usually mentioned, she was a talent and would definitely have a bright future. Now that he was sitting on the toilet lid and looking up at the bathroom door, it was as if the scene from back then had appeared again. In order not to worsen the situation, the girl who clearly had an awkward expression put on a smile that was even uglier than crying. Then she walked past him and pretended to be calm as she took the facial cleanser from the shelf. At that time, he was only a young man in his early 20s. Other than feeling awkward, he actually found it interesting. He wanted to keep Yi Huanyan by his side. Even if she had to use this method, even if she was covered in bruises, even if she regretted it in the future, she would just leave it as it was. The pain in his heart was no less than hers. Every time he admitted that he loved her, his biological mother's face would appear in his nightmares at night, full of resentment and pain. A week later, the group trip to Bali ended, and everyone in the company returned. After that, it was time to prepare for the company's annual meeting. Every department was busy with the year-end summary, so the preparation for the annual meeting fell on the multi-talented Secretary Yi. Using the excuse of preparing for the annual meeting, she devoted herself to work. Probably for the sake of the company, Ling Han did not find trouble with her again. Every day, they did things according to the rules, went to work according to the rules, and slept according to the rules. It could be said that they respected each other. On the second day, after the trip to Bali, Sheng Enren appeared in the pleasure group in a dignified and elegant dress, which made many people stunned. The movie queen Sheng, who had always been known for her beauty, was still stunning when she dressed up as a lady. Because Ling Han was in a meeting, Yi Huanyan sincerely suggested that Sheng Enren should not come to the company before the end of the year. Maybe it was because she wanted to show her strength. The lounge of the president's office became the scene of Sheng Enren's compliment. Yi Huanyan angrily put down the pastries and tea and sternly warned the group of flattering colleagues at the scene. You don't want to do it, do you? If President Ling comes out after the meeting and sees you so lazy, I won't plead for you. A group of people looked embarrassed. When they were about to leave, they heard Sheng Enren speak calmly. It's okay. I'll tell Han then. No matter how busy the company is, we have to strike a balance between work and rest, don't we? Yi Huanyan frowned. Miss Sheng, this is the company, not your personal studio. If you disturb the order here, I'm afraid President Ling is not so easy to talk to. Really? Sheng Enren's eyes were full of contempt, but there was a trace of regret in her tone. I also want to talk to you about the decoration of the house. I really don't know how to decorate an old house to make it comfortable to live in. Decoration? Xiao Dong of the assistant group was the first to smell a trace of unusual smell. Miss Sheng, did you buy a house? No, it's just that President Ling gave me the house where his parents used to live. I thought that no one had lived in it for so long, so I wanted to renovate it. This sweet voice sounded quite proud, as if she had the confidence to have the title of Mrs. Ling in her pocket. When everyone heard that the old president had rented a house, they were all shocked. It was too late to flatter and envy. How could they care about Yi Huanyan's warning? Live in the old president's house? Isn't that a place where only the Ling family can live? Miss Sheng, no, I'm afraid I'll call you Mrs. Ling in the future. Yi Huanyan's face suddenly turned pale, and his fingers holding the tray couldn't help trembling. This scene fell into the eyes of Sheng Enren. She raised her red lips and smiled quite proudly. With a smile at the corner of her mouth, she picked up the tea, took a sip, and exhaled comfortably. It's not a thing yet. I need you to give me some suggestions about the renovation. Yi Huanyan held the tray tightly and escaped from the lounge. He gritted his teeth and looked in the direction of the opposite conference room. The conference room of the president's office was not big. It was basically open only when the company's top management met. Ling Han called the company's top management to discuss the annual plan of the next year. The meeting had been going on for 3 hours, and they didn't know anything that happened outside. At the meeting, the plan put forward by the artist brokerage department included poaching some well-known artists to the company. Although the cost of signing a contract was too high, it was much less risky than such uncertain training of newcomers. President Ling, I personally think that the proposal put forward by Manager Wang is reasonable. This year, we have invested in newcomers, seriously exceeding the budget. In addition to the problems of the subsidiary in Shanghai, the newcomers can hardly rise, and the profit for the company is almost negligible. We don't know when we can recover the cost of such training, so we should make some stable changes. Ling Han furrowed his brows. The management members of the management department who had made the suggestion were all people who had fought alongside Ling Dongming in the past. Not only were their thoughts old-fashioned, they were also very stubborn. Just the matter of signing a new artist or a popular one had already been discussed countless times in meetings, big and small, but they were all rejected by him. This bunch of elders were already somewhat dissatisfied. And the problem of the training of newcomers on the live broadcast platform in Shanghai had become their topic of gossip. Now, they were holding on to it. Chapter 118. Old Tang of the second department glanced at Ling Han and quickly understood. He frowned and stood up. If we sign a popular artist, you all know that the so-called popularity has a time limit. No one knows if the time we sign the contract will be his peak. If we sign the artist, but the artist has a problem in our company, who will bear the loss? Coupled with the public opinion of the fans, this is very unfavorable to the company. What's more, the company already has many popular artists, such as Sheng Anren and Guan Nai. The annual profit of these two alone is already very considerable. Manager Wang seemed to have expected that Old Tang would talk about Sheng Anren and Guan Nai. He laughed and said, Sheng Anren and Guan Nai are indeed two popular stars in the limelight now. Indeed, the company's female artists are developing well, but what about the male artists? You know, the foundation of the entertainment market is still female fans. The company's male artists have hardly come up with a single one so far. Is it reasonable? Old Tang glanced at Ling Han and saw the boss frowning. He realized that his attitude was probably still the opposite of Manager Wang's. On one side was the company's veteran, and on the other side was the big boss. No one dared to offend. There was a rustling sound at the office door. Old Tang glanced at the door. Yi Huanyan brought the new intern secretary in and brought in a cup of coffee. As soon as she entered the room, she felt the gloomy atmosphere. She was slightly stunned and quickly understood the meaning of Old Tang's gaze. You all must be tired, managers. Have a cup of coffee to refresh yourself. Secretary Dong ordered a meal to fill your stomach later. After that, she turned around and picked up the coffee on the tray in the hand of the secretary behind her and handed it to the managers one by one. Ling Han's voice sounded in the conference room. Uncle Wang, why don't you tell me what kind of male artist you want to sign? Ling Han's words sounded like a loosening of his mouth, but in fact, he was retreating in order to advance. Old Tang was stunned for a few seconds. Suddenly, he woke up and looked at Ling Han with a look of admiration. All artists have black spots. No matter which one Manager Wang said was in the limelight now, he had a reason to object. Manager Wang didn't know that his nephew had set a trap for him and said proudly, "Speaking of which, you should all know him. The one who just returned to China a while ago is called Sun Yanhua." Suddenly, there was a clang in the conference room. It was the sound of porcelain cups colliding. It was not loud, but it was a little harsh. Yi Huanyan apologized in a low voice. She took a tissue and wiped the coffee off the table. When she put down the cup, she accidentally touched the plate under it. No one in the conference room cared about this small incident. However, in the eyes of Ling Han, such a small mistake caused his eyes to become increasingly gloomy. At the conference table, Old Tang smiled. Manager Wang, Sun Yanhua, I heard that this person, sure. Old Tang's face stiffened as he turned to look at Ling Han in disbelief. He repeated himself faintly. Sun Yanhua, right? Sure. Old Tang frowned, and his tone was a little hurried. President Ling, I heard that this Sun Yanhua had already contacted a domestic agency when he was abroad. They gave him many good conditions and even helped to arrange the concert in the end. However, until now, he has not decided which company to sign with. This kind of artist who is too opinionated for the company. Is it not suitable? Besides, signing him should be a very difficult thing to do. Ling Han's gaze was not on him. It faintly fell on Yi Huanyan, who was dressed as an office lady in the corner. She lowered her head, but a trace of worry could be seen in her eyes just now. She was so worried about Sun Yanhua's situation. Ling Han sneered in his heart. At all costs, before the end of the year, the person who signs with Sun Yanhua can get a first-class reward from the company at the end of the year. As soon as these words were said, there was a lot of discussion in the room. As everyone knew, the pleasure group had a reward and punishment system. The punishment system was very strict, and they could easily pack up and leave. However, in contrast, under such a punishment system, there was also a heavy reward system. The reward system was divided into 10 levels. The employees who did not make any mistakes in the company could receive the 10th level reward at the end of the year. It was not considered a great reward. Last year, the gold medal manager of the second department negotiated with Guan Nai, who was planning to leave the company, to renew his contract for 10 years. At the end of the year, he got the third prize, a single apartment in the main city area. As for the first-class reward, no one in the company had the luck to see what it was. However, it would not be less than the value of a single apartment. The meeting ended. Yi Huanyan stayed behind to tidy up the remaining documents with the intern secretary. Although she did not need to do the cleaning, the company had a cleaning ante. However, the contents of the meeting were confidential documents. They needed to be collected and archived or destroyed with a shredder. Secretary Yi, what do you think of the resolution of this meeting? A cold voice sounded in the meeting room. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She looked up and saw Ling Han was still there. She passed the collected documents to Xiao Dong. Take these to the shredder first. I will take care of the rest. You don't need to come over. Yes, Sister Yi. Only Yi Huanyan and Ling Han were left in the meeting room. She frowned and continued to tidy up the remaining documents on the table. President Ling, I am not qualified to ask about the meeting. I think you have already made up your mind. When she passed the documents to Ling Han's arm pressed down on the documents. She looked up and met his cold and disdainful eyes. Her thin lips moved slightly, and her tone was cold. Now you are acting like you don't care in front of me. Your acting skills are not bad. Do you want to consider changing to another department and go to the brokerage department to find an agent for you? Yi Huanyan's face changed slightly. President Ling, I don't know what you mean. Stop pretending. You should be happy that Sun Yanhua is here for pleasure, right? Dong Xuebing had seen her reaction earlier. Ling Han let go of his arm and passed the documents to Yi Huanyan. He had a sarcastic smile on his face. President Ling, this is the decision of the meeting. It has nothing to do with me. If President Ling wants to say that you made this decision because of me, I don't think I can take the pressure from you. Yi Huanyan did not change her expression and took the documents from Dong Xuebing. I still need to work. Also, Ms. Shang had been waiting for you in the lounge for a long time. I think you should go and have a look. If you don't go now, I am afraid tomorrow's headlines will reveal that Uncle Ling's house is going to be your wedding home. At the mention of the house, Ling Han looked a little embarrassed. He glanced at Yi Huanyan and walked out of the door with his suit jacket. Yi Huanyan looked at his disappearing back and recalled what she had just said. She could not help but purse her lips, and her heart was filled with mixed feelings. Since when did she start to do this kind of thing in front of Ling Han, where she would be jealous of another woman and cause trouble for him. Chapter 119. In the conference room, Yi Huanyan watched Ling Han's figure disappear at the door, and the knot in her eyebrows gradually smoothed out. When she was cleaning up the remaining documents on the table, she was a little powerless, and her heart was always blocked. Why did Ling Han sign Sun Yinhua? The meaning of his words just now was that he just wanted to see her reaction by signing the contract. But even if he signed Sun Yinhua, the artist brokerage department had never had any contact with her, and there would be no intersection at all. It was ridiculous to say that he wanted to see her reaction. In the lounge of the president's office, Sheng Anren was having a good time with the female staff in the office as Mrs. Ling. Although she didn't know how much of those compliments were true or false, they were good to hear in her ears. President Ling. President Ling is good. Ling Han's figure appeared at the door of the lounge, and the people around Sheng Anren dispersed. They were all afraid of being used to set an example, so they ran faster than mice. Han. Sheng Anren's eyes lit up. She got up and took Ling Han's arm. Why did the meeting take so long? Ling Han frowned and said in a deep voice, I'm very busy today. Aren't you busy with the house decoration? Oh, I just want to ask you something. What's the matter? Ling Han was a little absent-minded. He looked up and saw a familiar figure flashing in the mirror of the lounge. When he turned around, Yi Huanyan had already walked in the direction of the secretary's office in the depths of the corridor. Han. He came back to his senses. What did you just say? Sheng Anren's eyes fell on the door, and her eyes were slightly stagnant. I was just asking you why there was a room on the second floor of the house with the door locked. The contractor of the decoration also said that you told him not to touch that room. Today was the first day she went to check on the decoration, but she found that there was a room on the second floor with the door closed, and none of the keys Ling Han gave her could be opened. After asking the contractor, she found out that Ling Han had specifically told her not to touch the house. This made her a little puzzled, but she also found a suitable reason to see Ling Han. At the mention of that room, Ling Han had a strange expression on his face. Cold, let's talk in the office. After saying this, he pulled his arm out of Sheng Anren's hand, put his hands in the pockets of his suit pants, and walked towards the president's office. Following Ling Han, Sheng Anren inexplicably felt that he was in a bad mood today. He just finished the meeting. Was it because of the meeting? When he passed by the secretary's office, Ling Han suddenly stopped and said coldly, Even shredding paper takes so long. No wonder you can't finish your work. Yi Huanyan, who was busy shredding documents with her back to the door, stiffened. She practically bounced around and saw Ling Han. Her expression darkened slightly. President Ling. Miss Sheng. In front of Ling Han, Sheng Anren smiled elegantly and nodded to Yi Huanyan. Ling Han was not polite. Did the planning department come out with a plan for the annual meeting? They sent it here early in the morning. I read it. Because there was a problem with the budget, I asked them to take it back and revise it. Early in the morning. Ling Han snorted. I need to see the general plan before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Secretary Yi, please work hard. Don't look so weak, because Secretary Ji left. Yes, President Ling, put other things aside first. Send 2 cups of tea in 5 minutes. You should remember Anren's taste. Yi Huanyan's face stiffened slightly, and she lowered her head. Seeing Ling Han's attitude, the smile on Sheng Anren's face deepened. She had guessed correctly. Towards this Secretary Yi, Ling Han was only playing around. Who would take a girl who could not be found in a crowd seriously? This woman didn't listen to her advice. Now that Ling Han was annoyed, she was afraid that her job would be difficult to keep. In the president's office, Ling Han took off his suit jacket and put it on the chair. Sheng Anren followed him. Her slender fingers held his temples and gently massaged them. Her technique was very skilled. Ling Han was a little unwilling at first, but under her gentle massage, he felt a little comfortable. He temporarily forgot about the troubles in the meeting and slowly closed his eyes. What's in the room on the second floor of the villa? I think the direction is very good. Why is it locked? Ling Han leaned on the sofa chair with his eyes closed. His voice was cold, and no emotion could be heard. It's just a utility room. Don't worry about it. There are so many rooms. Which one do you like? You can choose it yourself. Really? Sheng Anren looked happy. Is the big master bedroom on the second floor okay? Yes. I thought it should be your parents' bedroom before. Should I keep it for you? When it came to his parents, Ling Han opened his eyes and stared at the table for a while. Then he closed his eyes again and said lightly, apart from the locked room, you can live anywhere else you want. I want to use the European-style decoration because the house is larger and has 3 floors. In this way, the European-style decoration is more magnificent. Sheng Anren's nagging voice seemed to have a hypnotic effect. With her massage, Ling Han became more and more tired. Just when his eyelids felt heavy, there was a knock on the door of the office. President Ling, I'll come in and deliver tea. As soon as the voice fell, Ling Han sat up straight and got rid of her palm. Leave it. Sheng Anren looked at Yi Huanyan unpleasantly. It was not easy for her to have such a harmonious opportunity to talk with Ling Han. This woman broke in rashly. It was really annoying. Yi Huanyan put down the tea and turned to leave. She didn't want to stay here any longer. There was a sweet voice with a bit of sarcasm behind her. Wait a minute. At some point, Sheng Anren had picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then she put down the cup and frowned. Secretary Yi, I never drink tea, and this tea is not fresh, right? It smells moldy. Miss Sheng, the tea in the office is President Ling's favorite mountain tea. Every once in a while, new tea will be sent to replace it. There has never been old tea here. When it came to Ling Han, the smile on Sheng Anren's face froze slightly. She glanced at Ling Han from the corner of her eyes. He picked up the cup and drank slowly. There was nothing strange about it. Han, you know I don't like tea very much. Is there any coffee? There are all kinds of coffee in the office. The coffee beans have just been used up and the logistics department hasn't kept up with the replenishment. Miss Xing might as well try President Ling's favorite tea. She kept saying what President Ling liked, which almost made Sheng Anren speechless. She was so angry that her face turned red, and her eyes were burning with anger. Yi Huanyan's eyes flashed with a trace of satisfaction. Holding the tray of tea, she smiled and said, If there's nothing else, I'll go out first. Call me if you need anything. Wait a minute. Ling Han's cold voice sounded behind Yi Huanyan. She paused slightly when she was holding the metal door handle. She sighed in her heart and slowly turned around. What else can I do for President Ling? Chapter 120. Enren is not used to tea. Make her a cup of coffee according to her taste. President Ling, the logistics haven't replenished the coffee beans. Yi Huanyan frowned and reminded him. Then go out and buy it. After Ling Han dropped this sentence, he seemed to be a little impatient. I have to say such a small thing. How can you be a secretary? Han, don't be angry. Sheng Anren comforted Ling Han, but there was a smile at the corner of his mouth. His narrow phoenix eyes swept over Yi Huanyan. Then give me a caramel macchiato. I want the Starbucks on Zhongshan Road. Zhongshan Road. Yi Huanyan frowned and looked at Sheng Anren. There's one in the coffee bar downstairs. Why do you want Zhongshan Road? Because I like the one on Zhongshan Road. The taste is unique. Are you looking for trouble? Yi Huanyan's face darkened. Han, this secretary of yours has a really big temper. You know that people are still quite particular about food and clothing. Sheng Anren pouted coquettishly, her pair of eyes very charming on Ling Han's body. Zhongshan Road is not far. After hearing this, Yi Huanyan turned around and left without saying anything. Hey, where are you going? Sheng Anren asked. Go to Zhongshan Road. The 4 indignant words floated from the door, and the echo lingered around the office for a long time. Ling Han lowered his head slightly, and the corner of his mouth raised a doting arc that even he didn't notice. Sheng Anren sat on the sofa and showed a dissatisfied look. Han, you see, your secretary's attitude is really bad. If she treated the company's customers like this, the customers would have run away long ago. Secretary, ye has a bad temper. Then why do you keep her? Sheng Anren looked at Ling Han's face, trying to find something from his face. Ling Han opened the document with a flat face. But she has excellent work ability. She can be 10 good-tempered assistants by herself. Sheng Anren bit his lip. Even so, don't you find it annoying to keep someone you don't even like by your side? Why don't you ask Assistant Xiao to find you someone with outstanding abilities and a good temper? I think she's pleasing to the eye. You've been very close to Xiao Mu recently. Sheng Anren suddenly felt a chill on his body and looked up at Ling Han's scrutinizing eyes. No, I just thought that you always leave everything to Assistant Xiao. It should be the same for things like finding a secretary, right? Besides, I haven't seen Assistant Xiao in a while. Her acting skills were not bad. Ling Han scanned her face but did not find anything amiss, so he calmly said, Xiao Mu was busy managing the branch company in Shanghai. I see. Sheng Anren lowered his head and slowly exhaled. As for my secretary, I don't need anyone to find her pleasing to the eye. I only need her to perform well and bring profits to the company. That's enough. There was no lack of warning in these words. Sheng Anren clenched his fingers and nodded embarrassedly. At this time, Yi Huanyan walked out of the pleasure group. Wrapped in a coat, she walked quickly in the cold wind. The skin on her ankles, exposed by her high heels, was cut by the cold wind. She frowned and glanced at the Starbucks downstairs before walking in without hesitation. What unique taste. Screw your unique taste. I don't believe you can taste where I bought it from. Hello, what do you want? A latte. Drink it here, and a caramel macchiato. Oh, right. Make the caramel macchiato for me in 10 minutes. I'll take it away. It was not lunchtime yet, so the lobby was a bit deserted. Most of the employees in the nearby office buildings came to talk about business or had something to do at the last minute. Yi Huanyan looked around, chose the most remote corner, and sat down with her latte. 10 minutes later, she finished her latte and felt refreshed. She took the packed caramel macchiato from the cashier and nodded to thank the smiling waiter. Then she took a deep breath and rushed out of the Starbucks in the cold wind. Miss Sheng, your caramel macchiato. In the office, she raised her eyelids and glanced at Sheng Anren, emphasizing, the one on Zhongshan Road. This kind of sullen attitude made Sheng Anren feel very comfortable. She opened the lid and took a sip, smiling. Thank you, Secretary Yi. I've always been used to drinking this, so I really can't drink other people's. Yi Huanyan raised her eyebrows. It's good that you like it. After saying this, she went out of the office. At the moment when she closed the office door, she couldn't hold back her laughter. She laughed out loud, scaring the intern Xiao Dong, who was collecting the materials and preparing to enter the secretary's office. Sister Yi, are you all right? I'm all right. Go in. Seeing that it was lunchtime, Sheng Anren came out of the secretary's office, holding the so-called Zhongshan Road Starbucks coffee bought by Yi Huanyan. She showed off to Yi Huanyan. Secretary Yi, thank you for the coffee. I'm leaving now. Next time I come here, I will bring you delicious food. Yi Huanyan twitched her mouth and looked at the funny cup of coffee. The more she looked at it, the more she wanted to laugh. Xiao Dong, who was sitting on the swivel chair in the office, turned to Yi Huanyan's desk and was a little curious. Sister Yi, why is Sheng Anren so happy today? She looked so reluctant when she left earlier. Yi Huanyan covered her mouth and suddenly laughed so hard that she couldn't stand up straight. Sister Yi, are you all right? Xiao Dong was shocked. I'm fine. I'm fine. Yi Huanyan waved her hand and forced herself to sit up straight. Where's the document for Manager Ling? Give it to me. Xiao Dong nodded dubiously and handed the chronological annual report to Yi Huanyan. Sister Yi, do you want me to go? It's fine. I can go. Yi Huanyan patted her cheeks to make her stiff face look more lively. Then she went to knock on the door of Ling Han's office with the documents in her arms. "Come in, Manager Ling. This is this year's financial report and the profit chart." The finance department had made detailed notes. "You only need to take a look at it, and you will have a rough idea of the results at the annual meeting." "Okay, then if there's nothing else, I will go out first." Yi Huanyan put down the document and carefully looked at Ling Han's face. Just as she was about to turn around, she suddenly heard Dong Xuebing's voice. "The weather is sub-zero, and the coffee you bought from Zhongshan Road is still hot. Secretary Yi, you are getting better at your job." Yi Huanyan's face froze, and she straightened her neck. "It's because Manager Ling taught me well." "Really? Look up." Dong Xuebing looked up from his desk, and his eyes were cold. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She had nowhere to hide her gaze from the floor-to-ceiling window behind Ling Han to the entrance of the Starbucks downstairs. Everything was in plain sight. She swallowed her saliva and muttered, "Didn't Sheng Anren also not taste the difference?" "Unrepentant," Dong Xuebing said coldly. His face was still calm and emotionless, like a cold statue. Chapter 121. Yi Huanyan was rendered speechless by his words. The main reason was that she did not want to have a conflict with him on the surface. She had suffered too many losses, and she knew how to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. Ling Han frowned slightly and asked as if he had nothing to say, "You also fool your clients like this?" Yi Huanyan looked up in shock. "I didn't. Clients were not as easy to fool as Sheng Anren." Ling Han's eyes flashed a trace of regret, and his frown deepened. Seeing that he did not speak, Yi Huanyan was a little nervous and began to let her imagination run wild. When she thought about it, she remembered that it was lunchtime, and she was hungry. When she thought of being hungry, her face changed. The next second, a clear sound rang in the silent office. "Goo!" Ling Han looked up in surprise, and they looked at each other. The atmosphere suddenly became a little strange. "Manager Ling, it's lunchtime." Yi Huanyan reminded him embarrassedly and touched her stomach. "I had an appointment with the people in the office to take turns buying food. It's my turn today." What she meant was, if you don't let me go, everyone in the office will have to work for you with hungry stomachs. This way, it will be inefficient. "If there is nothing else, I will go and buy food first." She smiled embarrassedly and was ready to slip away. A voice came from behind her. "Buy me a portion." For a moment, she thought she had misheard. Stiffly, she turned around and asked, "Huh?" Until she met with Ling Han's cold eyes. She regained her senses and nodded. Then she walked away in a pair of 12 centimeters high heels. "Xiaodong, let's go and buy food." A voice came from the assistant group's cubicle. "Secretary Yi, Xiaodong has already gone to line up. You go quickly. We are all starving." Right away, right away." "I'm sorry, everyone. Boss Ling wants to ask me something." The reason for the assistant group of the president's office and the secretary's office to take turns buying food was that after the Bali holiday, the auntie who cooked in the cafeteria went home on leave and replaced the uncle who cooked. The uncle was probably a northerner and was very heavy-handed. Everyone who ate his food suffered unspeakably. In the afternoon, when their mouths were dry, they had to gulp down water. After gulping down water, they had to go to the toilet. There was a time when the toilet was full. In a high-efficiency environment like Pleasure, the most important assistant group couldn't tolerate such things that delayed their work. Therefore, after returning from their vacation in Bali, the assistant group decided to take turns going to a new Chinese restaurant nearby to buy food after 2 days of eating. Today, it was Yi Huanyan and Xiaodong's turn. When Yi Huanyan arrived, it was already Xiaodong's turn. "It's 12 servings, right?" The loud voice of the Chinese restaurant's owner came from the window. Xiaodong was about to say something, but was interrupted by Yi Huanyan. "Lady boss, we will add one more serving today. 13 servings." "Okay, Xiao Dong was surprised and turned around. Sister Yi, who else wants to eat? Director Ling. Yi Huanyan twitched her lips and gave a look of "do you believe it? I don't even dare to believe it" expression. Oh, lady boss, one of the servings of vegetables, other than oil and salt. Don't put anything else. Don't put scallions, ginger, garlic, and any other chopped ingredients. The lady boss's expression was still good at the start. She remembered what Yi Huanyan said and repeated it to the chef behind her. But when she heard what Yi Huanyan said, her face got darker. Miss Yi, you ordered chopped green onions and scrambled eggs today. Can you tell me why you didn't add scallions? Yi Huanyan paused for a second and asked, why don't you use a whole stalk of chopped green onions to scramble eggs? Xiao Dong saw the lady boss's angry face and pulled Yi Huanyan from behind. He whispered, Sister Yi, are you kidding me? The lady boss is going to hit someone. Yi Huanyan suddenly found that there was something wrong with the landlady's expression. Blue veins stood out on the back of her hand that was holding the disposable chopsticks. Her eyes widened, and she quickly waved her hand and smiled embarrassedly. I am just saying, you can do whatever you want. While Xiao Dong was surprised by the lady boss's pickiness, the Chinese restaurant's lady boss packed 13 servings of fast food. She divided the food into 4 bags so that 2 people can carry 1 bag each. She ran to the office with the lunch boxes in her hands. The assistant team consciously carried the lunch boxes they had received to the balcony to eat. Although the company's rule against eating in the office had been broken when the afternoon snacks were distributed, this was the president's office, after all. No one dared to use something as smelly as fast food to pluck the tiger's beard in his face. Yi Huanyan looked at the 2 servings of fast food in her hands and walked to the president's office. Director Ling, here is your lunch. Yi Huanyan knocked on the door and waved the bag of fast food in her hand. Yes, I put it here. You can eat it yourself. I will. Stop right there. Ling Han stood up and walked to the coffee table. He looked at Dong Xuebing impatiently. Sit down and eat. Do you think the company gave you too much time to eat? Seeing that Ling Han had already opened the lunchbox, Yi Huanyan's expression froze, and she stepped forward. You don't need to. What is this? Yi Huanyan sighed in her heart and turned to look at the 3 dishes in front of Ling Han. Fried eggs with chopped green onions, minced meat and eggplant, and braised pork ribs. I don't eat green onions, ginger, and garlic. Ling Han replied, I know, but the Chinese restaurants around here are like this. Director Ling, you are the one who insisted. Yi Huanyan looked into Ling Han's eyes. She swallowed her saliva. How about this? Can I help you pick them out? 5 minutes later, Yi Huanyan held her sore wrist and decided not to eat fried eggs with chopped green onions for the rest of her life. Picking out all the chopped green onions from the fried eggs with chopped green onions was the most tiring job in the world. The second tiring job was to pick out the minced meat and the minced garlic from the eggplant. Dong Xuebing was mentally and physically exhausted. When she finished picking out the ingredients and ate the entire lunchbox in front of Ling Han, she would find Ling Han looking at her with a faint smile. That kind of gentle look was rare. Director Ling, I'm done eating. Can I leave first? Yi Huanyan almost didn't look at Ling Han. She packed up her lunchbox and stood beside the coffee table with her head down. Yes. Then leave it here after you finish eating. I will come and clean it up. Yes. Ling Han didn't seem to care about what she said at all. He picked up the glass of water beside him and slowly drank a mouthful of water. When she left, she noticed from a corner of her eye that Ling Han hadn't touched the dishes she picked out in his lunchbox. It was probably not to his taste. Why would a picky person like him eat fast food? It was probably a whim. After she left, Ling Han picked up the chopped fried eggs with chopped green onions and put it into his mouth. After chewing slowly, he picked up a large piece of rice. It tasted good. From the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of the restaurant logo on the bag. It was E.G. Chinese Restaurant. When he went to the bathroom just now, he seemed to have heard a few people in the assistant group discussing that the cafeteria seemed to be lacking a chef recently. Chapter 122. Fujin Park Villa District. The renovation team had been going in and out of the Yuan Ling family's three-story mansion for the past few days. In order to keep an eye on the renovation, Sheng Anren put off several jobs at hand and wholeheartedly stayed at home to keep an eye on them. The people in the renovation team were all found by Qiao Mu. Although the people Qiao Mu found were always reliable, Sheng Anren was still worried. After all, this was the house where Ling Han used to live. If anything happened, she could not bear the responsibility. Hey, where's the statue at the door? She stood at the door wearing a mask and waved the dust in front of her as she questioned the worker who was busy moving the living room furniture out. The worker frowned. What statue? I don't know. Hey, how can you not know? I put it at the entrance when I came. It's that artistic human statue. You don't know. We can't be the ones who took away such a big statue, right? Hey, you're talking, Miss Sheng. A clear male voice interrupted the two's argument from afar. Qiao Mu walked up in a suit and glanced at Sheng Anren with a smile. What's wrong? The statue at the door is gone. They've been going in and out of here for the past 2 days. When I asked them, they said they didn't know. Sheng Anren snorted. I think these people's hands and feet are not very clean. Qiao Mu frowned and waved her hand to dismiss the indignant worker. Then she looked at Sheng Anren and sighed. Young master told me to put away the statue yesterday at noon. He said that you were going to renovate the new house. According to the renovation style, the furnishings and decorations were all bought and put away in the warehouse, along with the old furniture. Is that so? Sheng Anren was taken aback. He didn't tell me. Qiao Mu smiled with concern in her eyes. Miss Sheng, I think you'd better not stay here. Why don't you go to the second floor? There's a lot of dust here. It's not a big deal to dirty your clothes, but it won't be good if the workers stumble around and trip you. It's fine. I have to watch them finish the renovation personally. Otherwise, I'm afraid they'll cut corners. Sheng Anren waved her hand with a nonchalant expression. Qiao Mu looked at her with a strange gaze and was absent-minded for a few seconds. Hey, make way. A few workers carried the paint used to paint the walls as they walked past. Although they used good paint, they couldn't avoid the pungent smell. Sheng Anren was facing several workers with his back, but he couldn't move the 12-centimeter high-heeled shoes under his feet. As soon as he turned around, he staggered and fell toward the bucket of paint on the wall. Qiao Mu was quick to react and reached out to grab her wrist. She pulled with all her might and barely pulled her over the paint bucket. Her high heels snapped at the base with a crack. Are you okay? Qiao Mu looked down at the woman in her arms with concern. She practically instinctively broke free, but she stumbled again and fell back into Qiao Mu's arms. Damn it. She lowered her head and looked at the broken heel of her shoe. Qiao Mu creased her brows and looked around. Right now, the workers were all busy in the backyard, so no one was paying attention to her. She simply steeled her heart and directly carried her up to the second floor. What are you doing? Sheng Anren screamed and abruptly covered her mouth, afraid that she would attract the workers' attention. When they reached the second floor, she struggled out of Qiao Mu's arms and landed on the large bed in the master bedroom. She angrily rebuked in a low voice, Assistant Qiao, what are you doing? Pay attention to your status. Sit here for a while. I'll go find you a pair of shoes. There are too many people downstairs. Qiao Mu's expression was indifferent, seemingly without any fluctuations in emotion. Sheng Anren was momentarily at a loss for words. Looking at his tall and straight back, her throat seemed to be blocked by something. After a while, she awkwardly moved her lips and spoke in an extremely quiet voice. Thank you. After closing the door, Qiao Mu's stiff back gradually relaxed. The residual warmth in his chest made his heart beat nonstop. He slowly exhaled with furrowed brows, his expression a bit gloomy. 5 minutes later, the door opened. Xiao Mu held a pair of cotton slippers in one hand and a cup of water in the other. After putting down the cup, he placed the slippers on the floor. I found it in the entrance. The label was just cut, so it's new. Sheng Enren nodded. After changing into the slippers, she picked up the cup by the bed and drank a mouthful of water. Thank you. You're welcome. Director Ling instructed me to take care of your matters, so this is what I should do. Xiao Mu's voice was light and indifferent, without any discernible emotion. Sheng Enren sighed and said, "What exactly is Ling Han capable of? His assistants and secretaries are all weirdos." Xiao Mu did not know whether this was a compliment or a disparagement, but he did not comment and clenched his fingers. "Then Miss Sheng, you can rest here. I'll go downstairs to check on the renovation." Sheng Enren wanted to dig a swimming pool in the backyard for parties. All kinds of water pipes buried under the original empty space had to be replanned. This project was truly a bit huge, and this house could not be inhabited for at least 2 months. "Hey, wait a minute." Sheng Enren paced 2 steps and called out to Xiao Mu. Seeing him turn around, Sheng Enren pursed her lips and pointed at a room at the other end of the corridor next to the washroom. "Assistant Xiao, do you know what that room is used for?" The room she was pointing at was the utility room that Ling Han mentioned, the room that he told her to ignore. However, her woman's intuition told her that there must be something strange about that room. Xiao Mu followed her gaze, and when she saw the tightly shut door, she creased her brows. "Director Ling didn't tell you?" Tell me what?" Sheng Enren observed his expression, trying to catch something. Xiao Mu stared at the door for a few seconds. "Nothing. It's just a utility room for storing things. Since Director Ling locked it, it means that it's better not to touch it easily. Curiosity is not a good thing. Hey, what are you saying, Miss Sheng? That's all I have to say. Please rest well." After saying this, Xiao Mu went downstairs without looking back. Looking at Xiao Mu's back, Sheng Enren frowned and looked at the room. She was more and more confused. Who would put a utility room on the 2nd floor where the sun rose? What exactly was inside? The curtain of night gradually fell. In the pleasure group, except for the technical department, the lights on the other floors were turned off one by one. After working overtime at her desk to organize the documents for the afternoon meeting, Yi Huanyan closed her laptop and stretched. She slowly exhaled and looked at the intern Xiao Dong, who was originally sitting in Ji Xiaoya's seat. "Xiao Dong, I'll do the rest. You can get off work." Xiao Dong was slightly taken aback, and then she revealed a joyful expression. "Thank you, Sister Yi." Yi Huanyan smiled and winked. "Don't make your boyfriend wait." Xiao Dong had been doing odd jobs in the assistant group for more than a year. Her boyfriend would come to pick her up from work every night, rain or shine. This was something that everyone in the president's office knew. She was a bit embarrassed. "Sister Yi, you're teasing me again." "No, I'm really envious of you. Sister Yi is so eligible. Your boyfriend must be very outstanding, right?" This question made Yi Huanyan's smile gradually disappear. Chapter 123. When Yi Huanyan did not reply, Xiao Dong turned around and asked, "Sister Yi, don't tell me you haven't had a boyfriend yet?" Yi Huanyan had a smile on her face. Yes. For some reason, Xiao Dong felt uncomfortable when she saw this smile. She carried her bag and said embarrassedly, "Sister, you must have high standards. I wonder who is a good match for someone like you." Yi Huanyan was speechless. "Let's go. How long do you want your boyfriend to wait downstairs?" Xiao Dong nodded and walked to the door with her bag. Suddenly, she saw someone standing in the shadows. She trembled and supported herself against the wall to calm herself down. "Ling. Manager Ling, why are you still here?" Ling Han's expression was inexplicably gloomy. He glanced at her and said coldly, "I have something to do." Then, I will not disturb you." Okay. After Dong Shuebing got the permission, Xiao Dong ran away as fast as a mouse. Ling Han stood in front of the secretary's office and looked at the woman behind the glass door. Dong Shiwebing remembered how that woman admitted she did not have a boyfriend earlier. He pushed the door open and entered the office. Yi Huanyan did not look up. She still needs some time to sort out the meeting notes. When she heard footsteps, she thought it was Xiaodong. "Did you forget something? Why are you so forgetful?" She lowered her head and asked casually. A shadow swept in front of her, blocking a portion of the light. The smell of alcohol made her frown and raise her head. In an instant, she was under the shadow of a huge figure. Her heart immediately panicked. "Manager Ling, why are you so unhappy to see me?" Ling Han glanced at her from across the desk, his eyes cold and clear. Yi Huanyan reacted quickly. She slowly exhaled and said faintly, "I am just a little surprised. Manager Ling, didn't you get off work 2 hours ago? You should be having dinner tonight. You seem to know a lot." Ling Han snorted. "Then why are you here? Why did he come back?" "I came back to look for something." After saying this, he turned around. Yi Huanyan immediately felt that the smell of alcohol in front of her had mostly dissipated. It seemed that he hadn't drunk much. He took 2 steps forward and sat on the sofa opposite her. He stared straight at Yi Huanyan. She felt uncomfortable being stared at by him and asked, "President Ling, do you need some water?" "Yes." She quickly got some water and placed it on the coffee table in front of him. "President Ling, your tea?" Her wrist was suddenly grabbed, and she felt a cold sensation. His hand was very cold. "Secretary, were you and Secretary Dong talking about boyfriends just now? What did you say?" Yi Huanyan was slightly taken aback. "No, nothing. Secretary Dong is asking if you have a boyfriend." "Yes." A trace of sadness flashed through Yi Huanyan's eyes. She tried to break free from Ling Han's grasp, but to no avail. "You said you don't have one." Ling Han grabbed her arm and refused to let her go. His gaze was like a knife, cutting Yi Huanyan's emotions inch by inch. Yi Huanyan furrowed her brows. She raised her head and looked straight at that naked and slightly drunk gaze. "Is it wrong? President Ling?" Ling Han was at a loss for words when she questioned him like this. It was as if a fishbone was stuck in his throat, making his chest feel stuffy. With a sudden tug of his hand, he pulled her into his embrace. The faint smell of alcohol filled his embrace and drowned Yi Huanyan's entire body. She struggled for a moment and said in a low voice, "Let go of me. You don't have a boyfriend, but you have me." His panting voice came from above her head. It was hoarse and somewhat hazy. It was very charming and made people lose themselves. She raised her head and revealed a startled expression, as if she wanted to ask what he meant by that. A strong aroma of wine assailed her nostrils, followed by an ice-cold sensation on her lips. He gently caressed her softness, absorbing her hot kiss and moist moisture. His tongue snaked in, deftly parting her teeth, entangling with the clove in her mouth, stirring up clouds and rain with one turn. The white office lady's shirt wrapped around her plump upper body was peeled off inch by inch under his skillful hands, revealing the skin that was as bright as the moonlight outside the window. A large hand rubbed the black stockings on her calves, and then sneaked into the black wrap dress unsatisfactorily, removing all obstacles. The woman exclaimed and looked at the open glass door in a panic. She shouted in a hoarse voice, "Don't," and the last trace of reason collapsed under the man's skillful teasing during this period of time. Her eyes were intoxicated. Her cheeks glowed with a pink luster, and she let out an intoxicating moan. There was enough foreplay, and there was not much pain when entering. She even had a feeling that she could not wait, which made her feel faintly ashamed. But after a few rounds of sex, she found that what really made her ashamed was not only that. The floor-to-ceiling window of the secretary's office was facing the high-rise buildings in the main city area, bustling with neon lights. He clasped her hands and pressed her against the glass window with the back of her hands, taking her over and over again. He was not stingy with her smooth jade-like body on the high platform of the 20th floor of the office building, letting the night view her. After a round of taking, her lips were red, and her pearly white teeth bit off the lipstick. There was a circle of red around her lips, which had a kind of lazy and messy beauty, which made people obsessed. Her sweet and sexy facial features were reflected in the glass window. The eyes of the man behind her deepened a little. He held her waist and gathered his strength to attack. Ah, she breathed out hot air and sprinkled on the glass window, making it dense. White smoke rose in spirals in the secretary's office. She collapsed on the carpet, her clothes in a mess. She looked at Ling Han with a confused look. Tonight, he was so gentle that she was so confused that she was willing to do such a shameful thing in such an unshielded place. At this moment, his passion was exhausted. He sat on the sofa and smoked. It seemed that he had returned to his original state. He was cold and not close to the smoke and fire. It seemed that what had just happened at the bedside was just an illusion of his own. Do you know how to answer when someone asks you if you have a boyfriend in the future? He suddenly asked, and his face could not be seen clearly in the smoke and fire. Yi Huanyan was buttoning her shirt with her head down. Suddenly, she was asked the first topic. She was slightly stunned and looked up at him. After a while, she asked uncertainly, "Are we boyfriend and girlfriend?" With Shang Anren between the two of them, she couldn't even be considered a mistress. But his attitude made her look forward to it. "Is it so important?" He sneered and squinted at her. "We've done what we should do and shouldn't do. If you still pretend to be innocent in front of others and say that you haven't been in love and haven't slept with a man, it will make me feel hypocritical. It will also make me wonder if you are not satisfied with your current life." She lowered her head again and clenched the clothes on her chest. "I see." Chapter 124. Lanjiang City Garden Hotel Apartment. After Su Nianhua finished the last concert, he was exhausted. As soon as he returned to the suite, he collapsed on the sofa and had no strength to move. His agent, Li Dali, next to him, massaged his legs and shoulders and whispered all kinds of good words in his ear. Li Dali saw the caller ID on the table, and a strange look flashed across his eyes. "Brother Hua, your phone is ringing. You answer it." Su Nianhua waved his hand weakly. He did not seem to care who was calling. "What if it is Miss Yi? It is not appropriate for me to answer the call." Su Nianhua opened his eyes when he heard the words Miss Yi. He picked up the phone. "Hello? Hello." After hearing the voice on the other end of the phone, Su Nianhua glanced at Li Dali with a strange look in his eyes. "I don't think I need it now." Before hanging up the phone, Su Nianhua only said this one sentence. "Who is it?" Li Dali asked. Su Nianhua took his coat from the sofa and walked towards the bedroom. "It is not Yi Huanyan." Li Dali looked at Dong Xuebing's back view and had a meaningful look. The annual awards ceremony was imminent. The planning department had submitted their proposals several times, but none of them reached Ling Han. Yi Huanyan had rejected all the proposals. 1 month before the annual award ceremony, the planning department staff would avoid Yi Huanyan like mice avoiding a cat. "Sister Yi, is this annual award ceremony really so important?" Dong Xuebing asked after seeing the planning department staff getting scolded by Yi Huanyan for the umpteenth time in a week. "It is very important. No matter what you do, you must be one of the top 3 most searched celebrities on the day of the annual award ceremony. This is an unwritten rule since the inception of pleasure." Yi Huanyan knew Xiaodong had just joined the company for a year and had not attended the previous year's annual award ceremony. That's why he was not familiar with this event. When the time comes, several big partners who have close cooperation with pleasure and pleasure will come, and all the artists in pleasure and pleasure will also participate. Just the ranking of the artists in the group photo alone may cause gossip online, so we have to be careful. "I understand." Xiaodong nodded. "Anyway, we cannot make any mistakes. This annual award ceremony is the focus of everyone's attention. You could say that." After saying this, Yi Huanyan took the teacup to the pantry to pour some tea. While waiting for the coffee, her phone vibrated. She took out her phone and glanced at it. It was Sun Yanhua. On the other end of the phone, Sun Yanhua's voice was very gentle. Yen Yen, my concert is over. Are you free today? Let's have dinner together. I have to work overtime tonight, so I don't think I can. She raised her wrist and glanced at it. It was almost lunchtime. I only have about half an hour of lunch break. I'm afraid I can't make it. It's fine. I will look for you. I am near your company, but I don't know which building you are working in. Yi Huanyan frowned and looked out of the window subconsciously. Well, I get off work at 12 o'clock. There is a Hong Kong-style tea restaurant on the first floor. It's across the street from the alley where you met Xiaoya and me last time. If you get there first, find a remote seat and wait for me. Sure. The restaurant that Yi Huanyan chose was one of the more deserted ones among the office buildings in the main city. Because of this, it was suitable for a well-known person like Sun Yanhua to hide his identity. She does not want to experience the incident of being chased by fans a second time. At 12 a.m., Yi Huanyan told her assistants in the cubicle, "Don't buy my meals today." She grabbed her bag and ran to the elevator. Everyone looked at each other. While waiting for the elevator, someone joked, "Secretary Yi, are you going on a date?" Yi Huanyan spread her hands helplessly. "Do you think half an hour is enough for a date? At most, it is enough for me to go out and eat." "You want to eat alone, Secretary Yi?" When the elevator reached the floor, Yi Huanyan waved her hand while getting on the elevator. Okay, I will bring you desserts when I come back." The assistants were usually serious at work, but after work, they were very happy. Hearing this, the office was filled with cheers. Ahem. Someone coughed. Everyone in the cubicle suddenly saw Ling Han walking out of the corridor and looking at them calmly. "President Ling, you haven't gone for lunch yet?" Someone asked boldly. Ling Han glanced at the elevator. "Secretary Yi is going out for lunch." "Yes, she just left," Xiao Zhang from the assistant team said. She looked at Ling Han's face and asked carefully, "President Ling, why are you looking for Secretary Yi?" "Nothing." After saying these two words, Ling Han turned around and went back to his office. Everyone in the cubicle looked at each other. In the Hong Kong-style restaurant between the office buildings, there was no hubbub of people at noon like the surrounding shops. Most people were directly scared away by the amount of money recommended by the chef at the door. Other than the boss, there was probably no white-collar worker in the central business district who was willing to spend more than 1,000 yuan for lunch at work. This restaurant had been open for so many years and had not closed down yet. It was a big wonder. As soon as Yi Huanyan entered, she saw Sun Yanhua sitting in the corner wearing a mask and a cap. He waved his hand. She looked around and made sure no one was following her before she walked over. "You said you didn't have much time, so I ordered for you. You don't mind, right?" "It's okay. My taste is the same as before." Yi Huanyan took off her coat and put it on the sofa. "Your concert has just ended, right?" "Yes, this year's concert tour has ended." Originally, there were 2 more concerts in Xiqing, but the manager was afraid that I would be too tired and hoped that I could protect my voice before the end of the year, so it was temporarily postponed until after the new year. "That's good. Brother Dolly is really thinking for you. There is still about a month before the new year. Are you going home?" Yi Huanyan slowly raised her head and looked at the loneliness in his eyes. "That I didn't do it on purpose," he had told her before that in order to leave his family, he had been wandering abroad alone and had not contacted his family for a long time. "It's okay." Sun Yanhua smiled slightly. "I think they don't want to see me go back." "They won't." Yi Huanyan frowned. "Auntie must want to see you go home for the new year. In fact, so many years have passed, and now you have realized your dream. Your relationship with your family should be better. As a child, when you grow up, how many chances do you have to lower your head to your parents?" Sun Yanhua's eyes flashed with a trace of astonishment. "Do you really think my parents want me to go back?" Before Yi Huanyan could answer, a rapid ringtone interrupted their conversation. She hurriedly found her phone in her coat pocket, looked at Sun Yanhua apologetically, and hesitantly pressed the answer button. "Bring you lunch." Yi Huanyin's surprised expression made Sun Yanhua slightly stunned. Chapter 125. Then what do you want to eat? Whatever. A cold voice came from the other end of the phone. It was a very short and simple reply. Oh, okay. After hanging up the phone, Yi Huanyin frowned as if she did not understand. She looked down at her phone for a while. After all, she had never had to worry about Ling Han's meals. Most of the time, Qiao Mu would prepare them, and when Qiao Mu was not around, she would instruct the assistant team to prepare them. What's wrong? Sun Yanhua's concerned question came from the front. Yi Huanyin came back to her senses. Nothing. My boss told me to pack a lunch to bring back. Sun Yanhua was slightly taken aback. He remembered the man he saw near Jinjiang Park when he just returned to China. Your boss is the one who drove you to the company from your house last time, right? He's quite young. Hearing this, Yi Huanyin's eyes froze, and she responded vaguely, forget about him. Just pack a lunch for him later. He's very picky. He doesn't eat scallions, ginger, and garlic. He also has all kinds of special requirements for sweet and salty food. It's so troublesome. She lowered her head to eat, and a strange look flashed through Sun Yanhua's eyes. You seem to have a good relationship with your boss. Yi Huanyin was drinking water. Hearing this, she choked and coughed. Ahem. Why do you ask? You seem to know him very well. Avoiding Sun Yanhua's gaze, she breathed a sigh of relief. It's nothing. I'm a secretary, so I naturally have to know more about my boss. Hurry up and eat. She looked up to urge Sun Yanhua, but when she saw his tightly covered face mask, she was stunned. Their eyes met, and the two burst out laughing at almost the same time. How are you going to eat with a mask on? Yi Huanyin held back her laughter. She was a bit embarrassed because she was so focused on eating that she did not notice such a big problem. Sun Yanhua raised his eyebrows with a helpless expression. I'll just watch you eat. If the previous situation of being surrounded happens again, I'm afraid you won't be willing to eat with me next time. How embarrassing. Sun Yanhua glanced at her half-eaten French baked rice and smiled dotingly. I don't think so. Following his gaze, Yi Huanyin lowered her head to look at her plate. She suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Time was of the essence, so she had to eat quickly. After the meal, she waved for the waiter to pack a sandwich, a pineapple bun, and a cup of coffee. Originally, she had other things, but she looked at the time. She had to rush back before 12:30, so it would be faster to pack these things. While the waiter was packing, she chatted with Sun Yanhua for a while. If you don't want to go home this month, what are you going to do? I don't know yet. Sun Yanhua leaned on the sofa and seemed to be a little hesitant. I haven't signed with a company yet. Brother Li seems to be in contact with an artist agency recently. I received a call 2 days ago. If it's suitable before the end of the year, I might sign with a company. Yi Huanyin was slightly stunned. Thinking of the decision made at the company's executive meeting, she felt uncertain and could not predict what would happen. Ling Han said that he would sign with Sun Yanhua at all costs, which made her break out in cold sweat for Sun Yanhua. She hesitated. When you sign the contract, you have to pay attention to the terms of the contract. Many of the domestic agencies' terms do not protect the artist. It's okay, Brotherly is here. If you sign with a new company, will Brotherly still follow you? Yi Huanyin frowned. Yes, Brotherly has been with me for a few years. I'm used to it. Yi Huanyin could not remind him too much about his position. She just felt that Sun Yanhua seemed to be too relaxed about signing a contract. If it was really like what Ling Han said and signed with pleasure at all costs, then the team around him would definitely change. Lu Shanyu, miss, your takeaway is ready. The waiter's reminder interrupted Yi Huanyin's words. She took the packed lunch and looked at Sun Yanhua meaningfully. However, she did not continue what she wanted to say. I'm leaving first. I still have to go to work. Take care of your own matters. Okay, it's about time. I should go too. Looking at Yi Huanyin's back, Sun Yanhua was stunned for a while. He suddenly remembered that he forgot to ask which company she worked at. President's Office of Pleasure Group. Yi Huanyan ran back in her 10 centimeters, nude high heels. She held the door handle of the president's office and panted for a while. After she gradually calmed down, she knocked on the door a few times. President Ling, I brought back the packed lunch. Okay, leave it there. As soon as Yi Huanyan entered the door, she saw Ling Han sitting on the sofa and reading the newspaper. This leisurely attitude did not seem like the state of the busy company at the end of the year. She put down the bag and took out the packed food one by one. Ling Han's eyes looked over the newspaper and fell on the food. He frowned slightly. You changed restaurants today? Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Yes, the Hong Kong-style tea restaurant nearby. The food is pretty good. Ling Han's eyes fell on the simple meal that was obviously for one person. His expression was slightly serious. After putting down the simple meal, Yi Huanyan stood up straight. President Ling, please enjoy. I'm going to work first. Where's yours? A brief questioning voice came from behind her. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. The high heels under her feet turned slightly, and she faced the man on the sofa again. I ate at the restaurant. Ling Han frowned slightly, but he did not say anything. President Ling, do you have any other orders? Then you ate alone. Facing this aggressive questioning, Yi Huanyan's heart tightened for no reason. With a friend. A friend. Ling Han looked up and his scrutinizing gaze fell on Yi Huanyan. She wore light makeup today, which made her look good. She was wearing a beige professional suit that set off her elegance and calmness. This outfit was a little dazzling at this moment. He narrowed his eyes slightly and looked a little unfriendly. The atmosphere was inexplicably tense, which made Yi Huanyan feel a sense of danger and vigilance. She felt inexplicably guilty in her heart. She did not know why, but she blurted out a lie. It's Xiaoyu. She came to have dinner with me today. The quiet atmosphere was suddenly broken by her voice. Ling Han looked at her with slightly restrained eyes. He snorted coldly with an indifferent attitude. Explain what? If I have to ask about this kind of thing, I'm afraid this year's annual meeting won't be held until the end of next year. Yi Huanyan looked at him blankly. Seeing his indifference, she nodded doubtfully. In addition, she felt guilty, so she did not dare to ask more questions. She simply went out of the president's office. When she turned around, she did not notice that there was a flash of a smile in the cold eyes behind her. Fujin Garden Villa area. Sheng Enren stood beside a prototype swimming pool in the backyard. Her high heels swayed on the grass. She raised her noble head slightly and looked sharply at the window on the second floor. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.